And away we go on a Tuesday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Big 12 Men's Championship starts today with a quadruple header. We got back-to-back quadruple headers today and tomorrow. And we have the game of the day today, starting at 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. Baylor, Arizona State. We have the all Big 12 teams that were announced, including the Big 12 Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. It's here, man. Tournament time is here.
Dude, I'm so fired up. 4 games today?
A quadruple header.
Quadruple.
Not a single, not a double header, not a triple header, a quadruple header. You could basically pack it in all day today. You could start at 11:30 and go all the way until last tip at 9:30.
So I know
if you're so inclined.
There's been a lot of mid-major conference tournaments which have been phenomenal. There's already been so many more buzzer beaters and games that go down to the final possession this year than there were this time last year. I felt like last year the conference tournaments were a little bit stale compared to what we normally see. This year is delivering in the best of ways. So now with all the power conferences tipping off, like you're right, man, wire to wire, marathon-style college basketball, it is the best time of year for us hoopsters.
Well, look, I mean, here...
Did I say hoopsters?
You did.
I think I meant hoopers.
Hoopsters.
Is hoopsters a thing? I don't think it is.
No, it sounds almost like a mixture between hoopers and...
Youngsters?
Hipsters?
Hipsters?
Yeah, I was thinking like...
Hoopsters.
Where's like the...
I think it's really going to catch on.
Where's like the graph, you know, the between like people who like hoops and hipsters.
I believe you're looking for a Venn diagram.
Thank you. What's the Venn? I feel like I'm getting stupider. I just keep forgetting things that are obvious.
And then you just said stupider. Another banger. I felt this way yesterday, so I taught my class yesterday. My students are doing like some mock Sports Center style segments. One group got done with their segment and they came off to the side, and this student, she says, "I don't know, Coach, we just ate. We just ate just now." And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I've heard that before. Like, I think that's a good thing. They think they did really well. But I wasn't 1,000% sure. I thought maybe they were saying that they sucked and they wanted to do it again. So
God.
I had this very confused, like, trying to toe right down the middle without implying that I had no idea what she was saying.
No, it's a positive.
It is a positive.
You want to eat. You cook, and then you eat.
You cook, and you eat. It was definitely a positive. But,
yeah.
Man, I have never felt older. It's just a total gut punch. I've never felt older. I've never felt less cool. I've never felt the generational gap between these students and myself. It just hit me like a tsunami.
Oh, don't give yourself too hard of a time. You've never been cool.
Yeah.
So you can't possibly feel less cool.
Say less. Truer words have never been spoken.
We just ate. Did we just eat right now, or are we eating?
Pretty sure we're eating. Very hungry this morning.
I mean, I'm cooking. I don't know that I'm eating.
It's time to eat.
Yeah, my 10-year-old, he basically teaches me everything I need to know about language today. So I'm super hip. Had I been in that situation, I'd have been like, "Oh, please, everybody's eating.
Everybody's eating today, class.
Sit down. There's enough for everybody to eat.
Grab your silverware. We gonna be eating."
Oh man, we just ate. Did they, by the way? How was it?
They're improving. That particular group, I didn't think they ate, which further magnified my confusion in that moment. So I was like, you did not eat. No, we're going to get you back at the table. We're going to get you back at the table. Dessert's around the corner.
You left a full plate, okay? There's lots of food there to eat.
This is a 3-course meal. You maybe had the appetizer. Like, let's get back to the drawing board, okay? Pump the brakes, Lily.
You're like, that's why I was even more confused, because they clearly did not eat. If eating's good, they starved.
Truly. It's really fascinating to dissect. I've got a smaller class.
You should just go all in on being like totally rude. Like, yeah, no, that was good, except that it was horrible. Yeah, if you want to make it in this business, good luck. That's not exactly what it is.
I remember I had another professor that teaches a sports broadcasting course at Oklahoma State, actually. And when I was getting into this a couple of years ago, I had no clue what I was doing. I've never taught before. I'm really just regurgitating everything that's been taught to me. And he said, whatever you do, don't call them out like individually in class in terms of critiquing what they're doing. Man, I threw that out right away. I call them out in class in front of everybody. I dissect, deep dive, like pressure is on.
That's amazing.
So
you're like, yeah, that lasted about 2 hours.
Yeah, half of my students hate me, but it's okay.
You're eating. That we know for sure. All right, so there's a lot to get to today on a busy Tuesday. Of course, the men's basketball championship tips off later on in Kansas City. We're going to be out there starting Thursday doing our shows Thursday and Friday. Plus, we'll have a championship edition of Big 12 Today from Kansas City at, I always forget this one. Is it T-Mobile Center or Arena?
It's Center.
That's what I thought.
T-Mobile Center.
I always say it, and then I want it back.
Yeah, it's
like,
Center.
Is it Arena or Center?
Because it was Sprint Center, now it's T-Mobile Center.
Is that a thing?
It was a big deal, yeah, because the whole arena was Sprint's color palette. You had the gold and black or the yellow and black, and now it's T-Mobile, so everything's that really bright.
But Sprint doesn't exist anymore, yes?
Sprint, the center or the company?
The company.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure T-Mobile acquired them, and in doing so, they acquired T-Mobile Center.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem like a messy divorce. We just pivoted everything to that bright pink.
Sprint used to be a huge company, and now it's like, whatever happened to Sprint?
That's a good point. They had great commercials.
They did.
Didn't they?
Yes.
You hear me now?
Great commercials. Whatever happened to that guy? I'm sure he's got a heroin addiction now because of that commercial.
Yeah.
All right. We've also got our Modelo Spring Caravan, which rolls on through Iowa State, Ames, Iowa today, and wow, a lot to unpack when it comes to Iowa State. They basically have 1 million new players, give or take a few million. But yeah, that'll be very interesting to dissect the Iowa State Cyclones, who, yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now about that.
When Iowa State and Oklahoma State play each other, it's two like expansion teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Brand new rosters all across the board. I think it can work in very different ways for both. And by work, let's get to a bowl game, year one. You get to 6 wins for either Eric Morris or Jimmy Rogers. I think it's a huge success because year one for Big 12 coaches, there is, data to back up the point that it is very challenging. This is a difficult league. So completely new rosters. Year one, there are growing pains. We saw it with Dion in Colorado. We saw it with Willie Fritz in Houston. We saw it with Rich Rod and Scott Frost. Brent Brennan at Arizona. Like, the track record is there that year one, you're just trying to lay the foundation, and it's going to be a tall order to make a bowl game is what I'm saying. That would be a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, let me just say I'm far more optimistic at Oklahoma State than I am at Iowa State.
Well, bringing in a Heisman caliber quarterback does help, and the nation's leading rusher does help.
Yeah. But look, Jimmy Rogers did it in 1 year at Washington State, and we'll visit with Jimmy Rogers later on in the show, but even going 7-6 year one at Washington State after coming from South Dakota State did not feel like a success to him, which I thought was kind of the biggest takeaway from our conversation with Jimmy Rogers. All right, that's all coming up later on in the show today. We've got a busy Tuesday, but of course college basketball is top of mind. So James, the player of the year this year in the Big 12 is Jaden Bradley. Surprised?
Very surprised, simply because he didn't have the numbers that some of the other guys had. But essentially what the All Big 12 awards, in my opinion, comes down to is respect. It's not a popularity contest. It is a who do these coaches respect the most in the league. And Jaden Bradley was the point guard and the catalyst for arguably the best team in America and the team on paper that was the best in the Big 12. It's the third Arizona player to win Player of the Year in their conference in the last 5 seasons, first in the Big 12 era. So sure, I can see why some of these other guys like A.J. DeBonsa or even J.T. Toppin or Christian Anderson, some of these other guys that maybe had the glossier numbers would have been the pick. But in terms of the most important player on the best team, all of the coaches seem to agree it was Jaden Bradley. And he's a great kid. He's the ultimate leader. And I think all of the stuff he does in terms of his personality, off the floor, on the floor. His leadership is a big reason why he also won this award.
Yeah, and context is important here. This was JT Toppin's award until it wasn't. But if JT Toppin plays the entire season, we're handing this out to JT Toppin. By the way, Jaden Bradley will join us on tomorrow's show, so you're not going to want to miss our conversation with Jaden Bradley. But here's what Jaden Bradley said about his mindset entering March.
I'm glad you said that. Coach Lloyd just got done talking to us about that. So usually, like, postseason, everybody's, kind of panicking, scrambling, like it could be our last game, but he wants us to approach it, as, a regular game. Like all season we've been tested playing against the top team. So just go out there, don't try to do anything you haven't done before. Just play normal, and obviously you got to take care of the ball, score, defend, and everything handle itself. But like you said, 3 games guaranteed. Definitely want to extend it. Want to win a Big 12 tournament championship and a national championship. So that's the goal.
Yeah, and you look, I mean, when I immediately saw it, my first thought was, what? But then when you dig deeper into it, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, look, A.J. DeBonsa statistically should very much be the Big 12 Player of the Year. But BYU is 10th in the Big 12, so it feels like that flies straight in the face of Big 12 Player of the Year candidate.
Right.
And with that being said, A.J. DeBonsa winning Freshman of the Year almost feels like a bigger accomplishment considering the freshmen that he won it over. I mean, Kingston Flemings, Darren Peterson, Braden Burries, Koa Pete, Isaiah Johnson, Diop. I'm missing some here. So, this is a wildly successful freshman class. So, in some ways, it almost feels like DeBonsa winning that award is more spectacular than had he won Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. But again, you can't win Player of the Year on a team that finishes 10th in the conference.
No, you can't. And that's the biggest thing. These coaches are going to vote for winners. And had Houston been the regular season champs, I believe Emmanuel Sharp would have been the Big 12 Player of the Year, who's on the All-Big 12 first team. It is a little bit wild that your Big 12 Player of the Year, his last regular season game, Jaden Bradley did not score a single point. But what he did is he distributed the basketball. He had a team-high 6 assists. He didn't have any turnovers in that Colorado game. He had a couple of steals. And then you look at some of the other games where they needed him, like at Baylor. They got everything and more in terms of, Baylor challenging them in Waco just a couple of weeks ago. Jaden Bradley was the ultimate closer. Finishes the game with 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. He's not that far off from a triple-double. And then the Kansas games, 12 points, 10 assists in one of those matchups. He had 17 points in the other matchup. I think about the game at UCF when he scored 23. Like, he did whatever Arizona needed him to do. And he was when I say ultimate closer, there's nobody better in this league and probably the country at getting to the foul line in late game situations than Bradley. He attempted 10 free throws against Iowa State. He took 10 at Houston. He took 13 at UCF. Like, Arizona, remember, when Arizona started 21-0 or whatever it was, all of a sudden you become the Super Bowl for everybody on your schedule. You're the biggest game. And for them to get through that in the way they did, he's the number one reason why.
Yeah, well said. Tommy Lloyd is Coach of the Year. I think this one you could certainly argue, but the reality is they're 29-2. It's the most wins for Arizona in the history of their program. They finished 14-2 in Quad 1. I'm just an unassailable resume, quite frankly, that despite Johnny Dawkins and the season that UCF has had, and Jamie Dixon, you could argue Bill Self coaching 2 teams for most of the year. It feels like Tommy Lloyd as Coach of the Year makes the most sense here.
Absolutely. And a good friend of mine is Corey Williams, who played on that Arizona Final Four team back in the early 90s. We did a lot of games together this year. And I was asking him about Arizona and the thoughts on Tommy Lloyd. Arizona's expectations are just, they're astronomical. Like, Arizona is right there with Kansas in terms of expectations, and that is to compete for a national championship every single year. And there's a bit of a black mark on Tommy Lloyd's career at Arizona right now because of that first-round loss to Princeton when they were a 2 seed. And then 2 years ago, they were the number 1 seed in the West region, and they were playing all their games essentially in their backyard. Phoenix and the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 were in LA, and they got upset in the Sweet 16 by Clemson. And he keeps circling back to that game. Like, if they had beaten Clemson, they believe they would have been a Final Four team. And this year is going to be a similar situation because these games are going to be on the West Coast in their backyard. Now, I think this team is built completely different, and this team's going to be a Final Four team. But, like, it's just weird with all the success he's had that there's any type of pressure to perform in the NCAA tournament.
You know when Arizona's last Final Four appearance was?
I believe it was 97.
That's your last national championship. They made the Final Four in 2001.
Okay.
So I get it.
That was the Jason Gardner team with Channing Frye
And they've been to the Elite Eight
a lot.
So I get it. And it's not just Tommy Lloyd. Lloyd is basically shouldering the blame for every coach that Arizona's had post Lute Olson. And
Bless
that,
you.
I mean, thank you. And you mentioned a second ago, you know, it's a standard similar to Kansas, and I'd agree. The difference being, I mean, how many Final Fours has Kansas been to in the last 20 years?
Right.
They've been to 4. They've won 2. So I understand the fan base's reluctance here. Now, it's not just Tommy Lloyd. It's every coach at Arizona basically since Lute Olson that has failed to get them back to a Final Four to win a national championship. No team west of the Mississippi has won a national championship since Arizona did it in 1997. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe it's super random, but it is what it is. We do know that Tommy Lloyd is the fastest coach to ever reach 150 wins. The dude wins a ton of regular season games. Can we lump his entire career, successful or otherwise, to losing a one-game situation?
No. And Kansas did the same thing with Bill Self early on in his tenure when they were losing.
And there's parallels
to Bucknell and to Bradley. Kansas was getting knocked out early in the tournament with all these elite teams, the early stages of Self's career. And then they broke through in 2008. They finally got over the hump, and they win the national championship. I see a ton of parallels. And now we talk about Bill Self. He's a Hall of Famer. Tommy Lloyd is going to be a Hall of Famer. He also took over a program that Sean Miller had run into the ground. They had a bunch of NCAA violations hanging over their head. Sean Miller didn't make the tournament his last 3 years in Tucson, but they haven't been to an Elite Eight since 2015. I mean, it's been 11 years. 11 years since Arizona basketball got past the round of 16. That's the benchmark, and that's kind of like getting the monkey off their back would be to get past that round of 16.
Yeah, well said. Huge year, obviously, for Tommy Lloyd, and the reality is, like with Bill Self, when you're a really good coach, sooner or later you're gonna strike gold. And I do believe, and I will have them, Arizona as a Final Four team.
I think he's a top 5 coach in America. I'd put John Shire up there. I'd put Todd Golden. I'd put Kelvin Sampson, Bill Self, and Tommy Lloyd. Not necessarily in that order. There's my 5.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with that list.
Hurley's just outside Taman.
There's probably a few other coaches you could add to that list, but I digress. And the reality is Tommy Lloyd signed up for this. I mean, he was at Gonzaga for a long time, waiting for a job like the Arizona job that he ended up getting, and so he knows what he got himself into. Like, the standard is the standard, and you can get it and understand it from the standpoint of you're kind of a blue blood, and you haven't been to a Final Four since 2001.
And I love that the narrative now is all about Duke, and it's all about Michigan, and Arizona is almost an afterthought. Houston is an afterthought. There's more national attention and talk about Kansas than there is even Arizona and Houston, which I think bodes really well for those teams going into the NCAA tournament.
All right, the Big 12 Men's Championship starts in just a few hours. We're previewing the quadruple header and the implications for all 4 of the games, including any at-large bids still available for any of the teams playing today. We'll get to that next. With James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today, and cheers to all you Modelo full-time fans. Modelo full-time fan rule, number 25, tournament week is a lifestyle, not a viewing option. So enjoy the lifestyle choice that is tournament week this week. Cheers to all you Modelo full-time fans. We are presented by Modelo here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
He is big and strong. He looks like he walked on from the football team.
Another giveaway. Longarita threw it right to Isaiah Johnson, who goes coast to coast and puts it in, plus the foul.
Let alone a bad shot, and then it results in points at the other. And terrific finish by Isaiah Johnson. 87%, and the first half couldn't make a three. They're 5 for 5 this half.
Johnson slithers in.
What a season for number 5 in blue, Braden Burries. And now Johnson gets the three.
Now talking about freshmen, you go from Burries to Johnson, and if you give him any room, he will knock down the three with authority.
7 on the shot clock for Colorado. Now Johnson, the lefty three is good.
Red, stop it. As a freshman.
6 points, 4 rebounds for Mo Krivas, one of the best big men in the country. Johnson got the crowd on his feet with that one. Win. And what would be a 29th record program win to end the regular season. But Barrington Harris and his backcourt mate.
If you want to see Isaiah Johnson, watch him get through the traffic. He splits defenders. They're phenomenal. That you do not want to play them in the tournament.
Coming up on 1 minute to go. It's been a magical night for Isaiah Johnson, who has a new career high.
Now, if he's taking your threes, you can live with that because he's done that all year. Separate, knock down the three. And again, there's plenty of time.
It's Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling on social at James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. You can always get at us on X and IG. By the way, I mentioned in the last segment that Arizona's not been to a Final Four since 2001 when they lost in the national championship game to Duke. They've been to the Elite Eight 5 times since then, including Sean Miller, who lost in the Elite Eight 3 times, including his first season. So, Sweet 16 Elite Eight, second weekend has been something they've been to a lot, but that's been the issue. That second weekend has just been the big issue for an Arizona program that expects to win national championships. 5 trips in the last 2 decades, and 0 Final Fours to show for it. So I get it. I get the fan base. And a lot of that's Sean Miller, right? I mean, Tommy Lloyd has been to the Sweet 16 3 times with the 1 loss to Princeton.
Yep. And those Elite Eight teams, like there were some really good Arizona teams. And we're talking about teams that had similar regular season records as this Arizona team. Okay, Sean Miller's last 3 teams that made Elite Eights were 32-4, 34-3, 33-4. Going into that Elite Eight game that they lost. So they were favored in several of those. And he had teams that were 1 seeds. He had teams that were 2 seeds that had the talent to be Final Four teams. They just couldn't get over the hump. And Arizona, one thing that I think is very overlooked when it comes to Arizona basketball, and I've always felt this way, is that they are an NBA factory. Every year you watch that team and you know, they used to be in the Pac-12 and play late at night, and so a lot of America wouldn't see their games. And then you'd watch them in the tournament, and you're like, my goodness, there's 2 or 3 guys that are going to be in the league and be first-round draft picks in the upcoming draft. They just always have elite talent. And this team, I think, is built, once again, for a deep run. Definitely Elite Eight. I believe Final Four. A lot of it's matchup-based. I get that. But I just – they're one of those 4 teams that you talked about yesterday that have – some of the top 8 KenPom numbers since he's been putting together the net rating system at all. I mean, they are in elite company with how they're playing. It just happens that we're in a year that Michigan and Duke are also having elite seasons.
Yeah. So currently, Joe Lunardi has Arizona as the 1 seed in the West region. Currently, Michigan, Houston, UConn, Illinois are all 2 seeds. Iowa State is a 3 seed, and Kansas currently a 4 seed.
With Texas Tech also a 4.
Interesting to see Kansas, who finished 3rd in the Big 12, fall to a 4 seed, especially with Michigan State and Illinois both on the 2 line. That's 3 Big 10 teams on the 1 or 2 line, and the Big 12, which is right there with the Big 10, has 1 on the 1 line, 1 on the 3 line, and 2 on the 4 line. Purdue's also a 3 seed.
And I think this is, you know, the conference tournament coaches say it really doesn't matter. Coaches that know that they're going to be
in the tournament.
In the NCAA tournament. But if you're going for a top 4 seed, it does matter.
Yeah.
Because remember, those top 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament, they get a little bit of help when it comes to geographics and where you're going to play your games. And teams that are in consideration actually get to submit to the NCAA selection committee where they prefer to play their games. So that would be a handful of teams in the Big 12, at least 5, maybe 6, when it comes to seeding purposes. I think with Texas Tech and Kansas, you know, they're both 8-8 in Quad 1. But also Purdue's 8-8 in Quad 1. Louisville is 7-9 in Quad 1. Vanderbilt is 8-6. Alabama 7-7. Arkansas 6-8. So when we're splitting hairs, a win or 2 in the Big 12 tournament can move the needle when it comes to your seed line.
In terms of the last 4 byes, NC State, Missouri, Texas, UCF. So UCF still on that line. Last 4 in: Santa Clara, VCU, SMU, and Auburn. I wonder if Auburn loses in the first round of the SEC if they're still in. First 4 out: Indiana, Stanford, Virginia Tech, New Mexico. Next 4 out: Cincinnati, San Diego State, California, Oklahoma, and then the next of the next 4 includes West Virginia. So West Virginia, Cincinnati still in it, quote unquote. and they both play today in what will be a quadruple header. No, West Virginia does not. Am I wrong there?
Correct. West Virginia actually got the 7 seed, so
Yeah.
they play tomorrow.
So we start with Arizona State Baylor. That's a 12:30 tip for game 1. A game you can catch as a part of Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Is that 12:30 Central or 11:30 Central?
11:30 Central.
Okay, 11:30 Central. Thank you.
Morning tip.
They get the first crack at the ASB glass floor. It's 16-15 Arizona State and 16-15 Baylor. Baylor went 6-12 in the Big 12. It's their worst conference record since 2006, 2007, so 2 decades. But they did win 3 of their last 5. And with the news that started to come out yesterday, basically Pete Nakos, Round 3 Sports, reporting that Bobby Hurley will not be back at Arizona State. The timing of that just kind of sucks, considering, we all knew that, but you're announcing that 24 hours before they tip it off for the Big 12 tournament. So on that and that alone, my money's on Baylor, not literally, but figuratively. What do you think about this game?
No, I like Baylor too. I do think Arizona State will play really hard for their coach because Arizona State has not just cashed it in. Like they've not thrown in the towel on the season. They've had some really nice late season wins. Masamba Diop has already said publicly that he wants to play another year in college before he moves on to the NBA, even though he would be an NBA first-round pick. I believe in this upcoming draft. I don't know that that'll be at Arizona State because he's going to get a bag somewhere else in the country. But for Arizona State, Bobby Hurley's had kind of an up-and-down career. Like he's had tournament teams, but he hasn't been able to get out of the first round. Yeah. And the last time they were in the tournament, they were the last team in, and they got beat by like 30 in the first 4. But I don't think Arizona State has to look very far to find their next coach. Bryce Drew is just down the road at Grand Canyon. He's right there in the Phoenix market. The Lopes are 27-4 this year. Okay, Bryce Drew, obviously the connection to Scott and his dad, and he's an up-and-comer right there in the area. I don't think this coaching search goes past him. I'll be shocked if it's anybody else.
Yeah, good call. Game 2 is Cincinnati, Utah, 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central. Per Bart Torvik, Cincinnati currently holds a 23.2% chance to make the NCAA tournament. So I would think they certainly need to win this game, which I expect them to. Then they'd get UCF. Then they'd get Arizona. What do you think? They need to win all 3 of those to get a bid?
I actually think they do. I do. You know, right now Joe Lunardi has them as the 5th team out. And that means that essentially they need to leapfrog 6 teams because you still have the group that's the last 4 in the field. And Santa Clara did not help Cincinnati last night because they upset St. Mary's in the WCC conference tournament. So that's a quad 1 win for Santa Clara. Their resume looks rock solid now. I think they're in the field. So Cincinnati needs some help. They need to win 2 games, win their first round game, beat UCF, which would be a quad 1 game because UCF is in the top 50 of the net and it's on a neutral floor. But if they lose that game, there's no chance. And then I do believe they'd probably have to beat Arizona to get in. I just haven't seen enough losses from the teams that are projected to be in the field. Now, what would really help is Auburn loses tomorrow against Mississippi State. That's their first-round conference tournament game. SMU loses this afternoon. They play Syracuse, who's playing better, but their coach is out the door. That's on ACC Network. SMU's lost 4 in a row. VCU, they're one of these mid-majors that has a double bye straight to the quarterfinals of the A-10 tournament, so they won't play until Friday. So they're in a really good spot. And then Indiana is going to play the winner of Penn State Northwestern. Stanford plays Pitt this afternoon. Virginia Tech plays Wake Forest. New Mexico gets the winner of Boise State and San Jose State. Like, there's so many teams in front of Cincinnati that are favored in their conference tournament to win at least 1 game. So, like, Cincinnati needs some of those teams to lose, get upset, and then Cincinnati goes on a little bit of a run to have a chance.
Yeah, and look, I expect them to win the game against Utah today. Utah 240th nationally in rebound rate, and also only forced just 7.9 turnovers per game. So what killed Cincinnati against TCU was turnovers. Utah's last in the Big 12 at turnover rate. So I don't think Utah should give Cincinnati much of a struggle. Also, Cincinnati already won the regular season matchup at home in February, 69-65. All right, the nightcap. 2 games in the evening slate. Game 3, BYU, Kansas State. That is 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. And this is, it's surprising that BYU is playing on this first day of the Big 12 tournament. But A.J. DeBonsa, scoring 25 points a game, was named the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. And it feels like Kansas State's just running out the clock on this season.
Yeah. Kansas State does usually draw a pretty strong crowd in Kansas City, regardless of their record or their seeding. So it will be kind of a K-State environment in KC, but this is the A.J. DeBonsa show tonight. This is a big stage for him at the Big 12 tournament. I think he's going to have a monster tournament. The real game will be tomorrow for BYU because they're going to play a gritty, tough, physical team in West Virginia that will be off of a day of rest. So does BYU still have their legs? Thought it said a lot that P.J. Haggerty, who's the number 3 scorer in the nation, doesn't make any of the Big 12 teams. He was honorable mention. So there's about 20 other guys that were in front of him in terms of what the coaches voted on.
Yeah, you're right. That says a lot. And then the nightcap, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, Colorado, Oklahoma State. I think this will be the best game of the day in terms of maybe Arizona State, Baylor, but ultimately Colorado, Oklahoma State to me will be the best game. Oklahoma State has used 18 different starting lineups during the regular season with 12 players logging at least one start. It's pretty incredible. And 7 different Cowboys having led the team in minutes at some point. So that's kind of been the year it's been for Steve Lutz. And for Colorado, they've got a nice young core. Isaiah Johnson's been phenomenal all season. Feels like this is a team, as you've said, that's a year away.
Mm-hmm. And Oklahoma State, I think, is in the same boat. They've just had a ton of injuries. Remember, at the start of the year, it was Anthony Roy, and now the back half of the year or back quarter of the year, it's Parsifala, who suffered that injury a couple of games ago. But Oklahoma State's also kind of a sneaky team. They're actually number 51 in wins above bubble. That's higher than Cincinnati. That's higher than West Virginia. That's almost as high as TCU. Oklahoma State has a decent resume. I think they'll be a postseason team, whether it's the Crown or the NIT. But if they somehow won this game and then upset TCU and maybe upset Kansas and got to the semifinals, they're not that far off of where Cincinnati is in terms of the NCAA tournament picture. Just trying to identify some potential sleeper teams. I would say from these games today, it's Baylor and it's Oklahoma State for me.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. On the way next, let's talk with our friend Christian Jackjian, college basketball analyst. He joins us next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
It isn't always easy with the emotion and everything else going on around Senior Day to get ready to play.
Well, your routine is different. Look at this guy. This guy can score.
Yeah, Yesufu. And then Sacco comes away with the ball, threw it away. Yesufu kind of loose with the dribble, and he scored somehow anyway.
How about that? Great footwork right there.
Skillings. Back to Yesufu. Hesitated and made the 3 anyway.
10-0 or more.
In 2 minutes. Carr got thrown down. They didn't blow the whistle. They do here, and Yesufu scores plus the foul.
He comes around, he's going to be even better. But watch him use his body right here. A little ghost screen, drives McCarty, little bump.
Carr is chased nearly into the backcourt. Flips it to Williams. 5 on the shot clock. Yesufu activates and sticks the 3. Hesitates. Here's Yesufu. He's going to send Alex Jensen to the therapist.
They came out at the end, but is that not just classic NBA right there? Here comes the personality. Move him up the draft board, baby.
Carr snaps it to Yesufu. Too much room. Oh, look at this. The finish from Tunde Yesufu. The flip from Caden Powell.
Big 12 Radio. It's Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios. Along with James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. Tournament time is here at the Big 12 Men's Championship, getting underway in a few hours. And joining us now to talk about the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament is Christian Jackjian, a college basketball analyst for Enjoy Basketball. What's going on, Christian? How are you?
Ooh, I'm good, guys. How are you? I'm fired up for a big-time week.
Yeah. Let's start with kind of what we've seen already with some of the auto bids and the mid-majors. Anything or any team stand out to you?
Yeah, so I had two teams circled that I said I want them to win their league. I want to see them in, and they both won last night, so I'm feeling good about that. One of those teams is Troy out of the Sun Belt in that crazy skewed bracket. Georgia Southern, the 10 seed, who went 8-10. They were like a pretty solid team. Won 5 in a row to get to the finals to play Troy, who was playing their second game of the tournament last night. But those tired legs caught up to him. Troy's the better team. Won that one 77-61. And this is a team that gave Kentucky a decent game last year in the tournament as a 14 seed, lost by 19, but it was closer than that. And this season, they won at San Diego State and lost in triple overtime at USC. And they beat Akron, who's another team that I think could make some noise should they take down the MAC. So Troy's a team I'm excited about. The other one is Furman. They were the 6 in the SoCon because they dealt with some injuries this year. They got this late bloomer freshman point guard named Alex Wilkins, who's super talented. Some big, strong physical bodies in the front court like Cooper Bowser, and some down transfers like Asa Thomas and Dom House, who came from Florida State and Clemson. So really talented team there, and of course Bob Ritchie won to beat Virginia as a 13 seed a few years ago. So those are 2 teams I'm excited about.
Dude, I love trying to identify some sleeper teams, potential Cinderellas. Tell us about Troy's Mexican Luca, as you noted on social.
Yeah, my guy Victor Valdez. So he came off the bench last year in that game against Kentucky, and he was 25 pounds heavier than he is right now, and he was playing off ball, and I thought there was something to him. Like, he stood out to me, and early on this season, I turned on a Troy game, and he was pretty unrecognizable, and they had him playing point guard, and he's become a super high-usage player, went from 4 points a game last year to 17, and he's a 6'7" point guard, and, sometimes struggles with turnovers or, hasn't been the best three-point shooter, but when I saw him play against the best teams on their schedule, like, you could tell that he's ready for higher levels of basketball. He's a tough matchup. He's a really good playmaker. And then Thomas Dowd, their big guy, has gotten a lot better from last year, too. He's a monster on the glass. I think he's a sleeper, like NBA Summer League kind of guy. So they got some real talent in the physicality and the athleticism to play bigger teams. They just got to hit some shots and take care of the ball.
Christian, one of the things we've been talking about is, the idea of parity and upsets, in the tournament. And, last year you had 4 teams that were plus 35 in Ken Palm adjusted efficiency, and all 4 made the Final Four. And of Ken Palm's, numbers, basically every team that's been plus 35 heading into the tournament has made the Final Four, including all 4 last year. And then there's another 4 this year. So it's sort of incredible to think that, like, historically there haven't been that many teams that finished plus 35 before the tournament started in adjusted efficiency, and yet we're now going to have 2 straight years where 4 teams each year are doing that. I'm just curious kind of for your overall thoughts on parity right now in college basketball.
Well, what happened last year, I understand how we want to explain it by NIL in the game changing, whether it's, European guys coming in or just taking all the guys from mid-majors. I want to remind everyone of variance. Variance is in sports, it's in college basketball, and it's not going to just die. Florida could have easily lost in the second round last year. They could have easily lost in the Elite Eight, right? Houston could have lost to Purdue. And there were different, a lot of mid-majors were taken care of easily, like on the 14, 15, 16 line. But we also have been spoiled in some recent years where there's just been complete and utter madness. Like a 16-1 a few years ago. We've had a bunch of 15s. Like, in these games where teams are, 10 to 18-point underdogs, like, most of the time the favorite's going to win. But and that's what happened last year. It was just somebody hit a 12-leg parlay of all the heavy favorites to win, So in terms of all the ones he's making the Final Four, we could see 2 or 3 of them there again. And yes, they are clearly the 4 best teams. If you want to put all 4 in your bracket, like, knock yourself out. But in terms of random things happening, I'm pretty confident that's going to happen again this year, even if those 4 teams are in a league of their own. And then in terms of 13, 14, 15s making noise this year, I'll be shocked if we don't get at least 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah. Christian, what were your thoughts on Jaden Bradley being named Big 12 Player of the Year? Were you surprised by that?
I was. As amazing as he's been, and well-deserved recognition, I'm not mad about it. I would have voted for AJ. I think while I am all for rewarding winning, I find it like a little bit lazy when you, and that might sound like a strong word here, but to just automatically be, okay, first place team, best player, done, that's my player of the year, because we can still recognize Jaden Bradley for the amazing season he had by making him a unanimous all Big 12 first team, which he wasn't, by the way, which AJ was, but Bradley should have been, in my opinion, right? But you can impact winning and win at a high, even if BYU finishes as a 10 seed. Like AJ was a winning player and impacted winning. He was not putting up empty calorie scoring. Everybody knows that, especially late in the season when you started to see how much better he got defensively and playmaking and leading that team. So, I mean, I would have voted for JT Toppin over Jaden Bradley to be Player of the Year, which might sound a little crazy with how much time he missed. I'm not mad about it because he's such an awesome player and they've won at such a high level. Tommy Lloyd's obviously your Coach of the Year. But personally, for me, a Player of the Year, you can't average 13 points a game and be a Player of the Year unless you're the greatest defensive player ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree, Christian. I think it was JT Toppin's award. When he went down, there was like a scramble to figure it out. And, DeBonsa had a great year, but BYU finished 10th. So kind of just went with maybe the most important player on the best team. But I digress. Do you think Arizona can win a national championship? Do you think they're part of the conversation with Duke and Michigan? Because it feels like they've kind of gone into the periphery a bit relative to Duke and Michigan.
I agree, and Arizona's the healthy one. LJ Cason's a really important player for Michigan. Caleb Foster's a really important player for Duke, and so is Pat Gongba. And I think those teams are going to be fine and still be elite and, make up for those losses in the aggregate. But, Koa Pete missed some time. Aristode missed some time. And all of a sudden you look at Arizona's schedule and they lost by 4 in a game against Kansas where obviously no Darren Peterson, but still at Allen Fieldhouse. And I'm not going to talk too much about the officials there, but let me just say I don't think Arizona got the best whistle in that game. And then an overtime loss to a Texas Tech team that's beaten, Duke themselves. So Arizona could easily be a one-loss or undefeated team. They are so consistently – they've just been very consistent on a game-by-game basis. I know Evan Mia has a stat on his site about that. Like, they don't have any of the head-scratchers that Michigan's had. I think they're the second-best team. I understand Michigan has the highest ranking, but in terms of what to expect on a game-by-game basis, other than Duke, I think Arizona would be my number 2 team. Just the way they dominate on the glass defensively, the way Krivas is playing defensively is unreal. And then you've had guys like Del Orso and Karchenkov and Bradley just like really step up and get better. Burries, of course, just get better as the season's gone. And the people who want to simplify things and get mad because their 3-point attempt rate is low, third lowest in the entire country, they got shooters, man. Burry's a shooter. Bradley, when he's felt like, scaling up his 3-point volume, he's made his threes. Karchenkov, I know he's sub 30% of the season, but when he's open, I expect that to go in. Del Orso has been shooting it much better lately, and Aristode's up at 46%. So just so much to like about this team. They're so balanced, and I think the one thing that will be interesting to see in a tournament setting is what happens in a half-court paced game. That's what happened against Princeton. That's what happened against Clemson. Last year they just ran into a better Duke team, but I have kind of in my mind that UConn game and that UCLA game back in November, you learn things about teams in non-conference play even when they're not fully formed, just because you're playing in unfamiliar places against teams outside your league who don't know you as well. I guess UCLA knows them, but it's still a lot of different personnel from when those teams were in the Pac-12 together. All that to say, I think Arizona, this iteration of Arizona, is better constructed compared to some past versions of Tommy Lloyd teams to handle a slower-paced half-court game. And you saw that when they go one at Houston, So, lots to like about Arizona. I'm definitely buying them as, at lowest, the second-best team in the league. And if they go win the Big 12 while Duke and Michigan don't win theirs, it's going to be hard to, they'll be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament and probably the favorite to cut down the nets.
Would Arizona match up better with Michigan or Duke? I know Michigan just lost LJ Kaysen, who was really coming on, like averaged over 8 points per game. He was their best 3-point shooter on the team, at least in terms of percentage, and had a monster February. Tore his ACL against Illinois on February 27th. So where does Michigan sit right now?
Yeah, I was at that game when he tore his ACL. When he went down, I was scared because he has been one of the best backup guards in the country this year, and I'm not a huge fan of Elliot Cadeau's game. He's obviously can make a lot happen at the point guard position, but he can really struggle with turnovers, and his 3-point shot has been better this year, but it's still not great, and you're just asking for a little bit more of him and just the ball in his hands a bit more. I'm nitpicking because Michigan's obviously been dominant and had an amazing season, but when I talk about that style of game, the game that Arizona will play versus Duke and Michigan is very different. You saw Duke bog Michigan down in the half court, and I think Duke could probably do that to Arizona. If Arizona and Michigan are up and down, Michigan and Arizona, to be fair, are not used to seeing teams that can match their front courts. Just the monstrosity of having so many dominant bodies on the glass and protecting the rim, and that clash would be really interesting to see, but I trust Arizona's guards way more than Michigan's. It's not even close. And I don't think, like you can throw Yaxel at a Keaton Wagler, a Braden Smith, have him harass him, kind of like what you saw BYU do with putting Boop on Christian Anderson, right? What would you do to Arizona? Are you going to put Jaden Bradley? Fine, Braden Burries will pull it up.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that I think Michigan can disrupt and bully Arizona the way that they have to so many teams to get them out of their stuff. But then Arizona Duke, I think Duke could do kind of what they did to Arizona to Michigan, but then again, I think Arizona would be better equipped to handle that, even if they take less threes and are less equipped on paper. I just think they're better.
Christian Adjakjian always does a great job. Make sure to follow him on Twitter and check out the great work that he does. Christian, thanks for your time, man. Be well.
Yeah, of course.
Christian Adjakjian from Enjoy Basketball. It's a pretty good name for a publication, right?
Enjoy basketball?
Yeah.
We love basketball.
Especially in just a world that's very cynical. Just enjoy basketball. Love it.
It's a game. We love games. We love sports.
Valid or Void Big 12 editions next with James Westling, Amari Temkin. Is there a team poised to make a K-State-like run in the Big 12 men's championship? Plus, what does Cincinnati need to do? And is Westmiller going to keep his job? It's all on the way next with James Amari. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Check out the top plays from the Big 12 men's basketball starting five.
BYU's lost 7 of their last 10. They have fallen out of the top 25 for the first time this year, but they do still have arguably the best player in the country, A.J. DiBonsa, and he gets his 4th point here, unable to overtake the Mountaineers, and ended up losing 79-71. DiBonsa
drags it out, okay, and then Celestine is just late to get back in front.
Chom, 14-8. DiBonsa for 3.
What a play.
Davis has got to start making some shots. He's making too much money to miss those shots.
DiBonsa contested and one. A.J. DiBonsa to the line.
Now, we all know this if we watched him. He is absolutely a killer in that high paint area.
Well, the best three-point shooting team in the conference doing it tonight.
They are showing it. And Kevin Young's coaching like an NBA guy, throwing double teams at people. Atwell continues to do a great job on A.J. DiBonsa.
DiBonsa in.
Yep.
And one.
He's so good at elevating in that we call high paint area, and then Petty reaches in.
And eventually Cada has it. Now DiBonsa pushing up ahead. DiBonsa inside and one.
This is real estate. We call it the high paint. Once he gets there, he's almost unstoppable.
We're back. And better than ever. James Westling, Ari Tepkin, Big 12 Radio. Presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. And it's time now for a little Valid or Void. Our producer, T-Chains, Damon Turner, throws a topic out there, and James and I decide if it's valid or void.
Okay.
And you call this Big 12 edition. I'm pretty sure everyone is Big 12 edition, is it not?
Yeah.
Big 12 edition,
No,
Ari.
Of course.
Okay,
Big 12 edition.
Just clarifying.
There's no national topics. It's Big 12 only.
Yeah. No, I got that.
Okay.
Is there any
It's
non?
a Big 12 edition.
Okay.
We're not talking NFL. We're not talking NBA. It's Big 12.
Big 12, valid or void?
Got it.
All right, guys. First topic, numero uno.
First topic, numero uno.
Numero uno. West Virginia will at least make the Sweet 16 in the women's NCAA tournament. Valid or void?
Valid.
Ooh, okay.
It's valid. West Virginia women are going to host the first two rounds in Morgantown. They have been hungry for success at West Virginia Coliseum. That crowd's going to be absolutely electrifying. They're hot right now. They just beat TCU 62-53 to win the Big 12 championship. They're projected to be a top 4 seed. Also, they have the second best defensive rating in the country. They just simply don't let you score. And then the emergence offensively of Jordan Harrison, who's the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, was the tournament MOP, Most Outstanding Player, had 21 points, went 10 for 10 from the line in that win over TCU. I think this is the year that they break through and get to at least the Sweet 16.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The bracket has not been released yet.
Correct.
Okay. But yes, indications are they'll be a top 4 seed, which means they host. So in that case, I'll say that's valid. They will get to the second weekend hosting the first couple of days in Morgantown. So I'm there as well. But it is not official yet.
Not official.
So I reserve the right to change that if they're a 5 seed and don't get to host.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, next one. So TCU, as you guys know, have won 8 out of their last 9. Big 12 tournament, here we are. So regardless of what happens in the Big 12 tournament, TCU will at least make the Sweet 16 in the men's NCAA tournament.
At least the Sweet 16. Void. TCU men?
The men.
The TCU men
Yes.
are going to at least make the Sweet 16. No way. Like,
whoa.
I love this team. They're
wow.
hot.
Why do you
won-
hate TCU
they've
so
won-
What
much?
did they do to you?
Listen, they've won 8 of their last 9 games, and Jamie Dixon has done one of the most underrated coaching jobs in America this year. But they're going to be likely an 8 or a 9 seed. Only 5% of those teams have ever advanced past the Sweet 16. And we just spent 15 minutes yesterday talking about how these 1 seeds are the best all time in college basketball. I love TCU, but to expect them to take down one of those top number 1 seeds, I don't see it.
I hate that you keep stealing my arguments. They've won too many games. Jamie, cool your jets. The 8 of 9 thing has hurt you because, to your point, now you're most likely an 8 or a 9 seed, which means it's not likely you get out of the first weekend. And it's funny because it feels like the last couple of trips, TCU's been in that same 8-9 line and lost in close games to a 1 seed.
One of them was against Arizona.
Yeah.
When Arizona was in the Pac-12, they had them on the ropes, went to overtime. Who was that baller guard for TCU? Miles?
Yeah.
He was a
Mike
stud.
Miles.
Mike
They
Miles.
also had a stud post player who was just a monster in that
Kenneth
game.
Williams, I think.
No. It'll come to me.
All right.
But yeah, they've won too much. Too much winning. That's their issue here.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that you'd rather be a 10 or an 11 seed versus a 9 or an 8, but that's where we are. TCU needs to lose. Sorry, TCU. You should just give up this game in the Big 12 tournament, lose, and see if that hurts your seeding, because I'm with James here. I'm going to say void. As an 8-9 seed, I don't like them making the second weekend. As a 10-11 seed, I loved it. 8-9, absolutely not.
Like, the place to be this year is 11 seed. That's your spot. The 3 seeds are limping towards the finish line with Purdue, with some of these Nebraska. even a couple of these Big 12 teams, Texas Tech has been up and down. I think they have a really high variance. They can be a Final Four team. They could get bounced in the second round. Like that's the spot that teams want to be on, that seed line.
All right, third topic. And before I say it, just for a second, this team has won 6 out of their last 8. So
God, it was Emmanuel Miller. It was Mike Miles, Emmanuel Miller, Damian Baugh, Micah Peavy. That team was stacked.
Not stacked enough, apparently. Who is the big guy I'm thinking about?
I think it's Emmanuel Miller.
No, he was a guard, too.
Are you thinking about... Emmanuel Miller, 6'7".
It's okay. Let's move along.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I'll get to it. It's not. You're looking at the wrong year, I think.
All right, next topic. Okay, like I said, this team has won 6 out of the last 8. So with that said, Cincinnati will make a run to the semifinals similar to what Kansas State just did on the women's side. Now, or what?
I'm going to avoid this. So I don't know why that took me so long. I was trying to think through the K-State part of it, but what seed was K-State in the women's tournament?
I think they were a 10 or 11.
Look, I think for Cincinnati to make a credible case for the NCAA tournament, they need to win 3 games here. They need to beat Utah, UCF, and Arizona. And if they do that, I think they're most likely in. Now, if they did that, they'd have a K-State-like run, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see Arizona losing before the Big 12 championship game. They do have 6. They have won 6 of the last 8, and they have 4 of those wins by 15 points. They're a really good defensive team that struggles on offense. That's kind of been the calling card of Wes Miller's teams at Cincinnati. It's the same thing every year where it's like so close, but still hasn't made the tournament. And I think this year will be the same.
By the way, K-State was a 12 seed.
12 seed. Nice work, Taman. Yeah, I'm gonna avoid this too because they would have to play Arizona again, a team that is probably hurt by their seed line. I would much rather be on that Oklahoma State, Colorado side of the bracket, or Baylor, Arizona State, that spot in the bracket. Number 1, you've got to take care of business against Utah. Number 2, you still have to beat a UCF team that is a higher seed than you, and then you'd have to win a 3rd game in 3 days against the most physical, imposing, wear-you-down basketball team in America. I just don't see it. Cincinnati doesn't have a deep enough bench, and I think by that 3rd day, they are going to be exhausted. Remember when Colorado had their run? Colorado upset West Virginia. Second half of that game against Houston, they had no legs, and you see that a lot in these conference tournaments.
Eddie Lampkin
played 15 years ago.
No, that was the same year. He dominated that Arizona game. Yeah, he was the reason they nearly beat Arizona.
Now I'm just embarrassed.
Well,
Baby Shaq, Eddie Lampkin.
Baby Shaq.
He was a baller.
All right, next one. So we're staying with Cincinnati. As you guys know, they were hot the second half of the season. So regardless of how Cincinnati finishes in this tournament, Wes Miller, head coach, has saved his job.
No, that's void. Yeah, it's close only counts in hand grenades and horseshoes, guys. And it'd be one thing if they had made a few tournaments previously, but they haven't. And every year is the same deal, where they either start off really good and look like they're in and then flame out, or like in this case, go on a furious run at the end of the year to try to get in, but don't get in. And I think this is going to be the same. I think they're going to beat Utah. I think they're going to beat UCF. And then they're going to lose to Arizona, and they're going to find themselves once again just on the outside. And that's just not good enough with 5 straight years of not making the tournament. I understand this team has rallied around their coach, and they've played phenomenally. And I like Wes Miller. I really do. But it comes down to the same piece. Their offense has been terrible. Wes Miller is very good at coaching defensive basketball. He is not good at coaching offensive basketball. And in 5 years, that's been the same issue for Cincinnati. So, no, I think he's still out.
I think he's back. I believe Wes Miller will be back one more year at Cincinnati, and maybe many years if they have success next year and make the tournament. There's a couple of things. Number one, I'm reading between the tea leaves, if you will, because both Cincinnati and Kansas State fan bases want Jared Calhoun as their next coach. Jared Calhoun is a Bob Huggins disciple who was with Huggins at many, many stops. There are rumors swirling, I'll leave it at that Calhoun has agreed to become the next coach at Kansas State. I don't think Calhoun, like these coaches, they're agents, they're talking to people behind the scenes. Like these deals, a lot of times, they're done behind closed doors weeks before they ever go public. So if Calhoun's the next coach at Kansas State, that tells me that the Cincinnati job, he doesn't think is going to be open. And Wes Miller's buyout, if they fire him before April 1st, they owe him $10 million. By April 1st, all the good coaches are gone. The firings happen before that key date of April 1st, which is why coaches and their agents make that the date. If they fire him after April 1st or next year, his buyout gets cut 60% down to a little over $4 million. So Cincinnati can save about $6 million to bring him back, and he's also stacked back-to-back solid recruiting classes, top 25 in the country, that I think is going to be enough to get him one more year in Cincy. I do.
His first year in Cincinnati, they were 148th in Ken Palm offense. His second year at Cincinnati, they were actually, I think, was his best year in terms of 145th in Ken Palm offense in year 2. In year 3, in 2023, they were this was the best year, 56th. So yeah, dramatic improvement. And then Cincinnati was in. Sorry, this is taking me forever. They were 79th. In 2024, in 2025, they were in the hundreds. So, I mean, they basically have been no higher than 56th in Ken Palm offense every year that Wes Miller's been there, including 3 of his 5 years. They've been in the hundreds. I don't know what else you need to see.
No.
You need to be better and more consistent on offense, period. End of story.
The last month of the season, somehow, some way, they figured it out, though. They've scored 90 or more points in 6 of their last 8 games. Like, offensively, now they didn't have a great showing against TCU, but before that game, they had been scoring the ball a lot. I'm just trying to think, like when he walks into the athletic director's office, John Cunningham, his case to be back next year, I think he's got a shot. I do.
All right, final topic. Houston will win the Big 12 tournament as the 2 seed in the men's, just like West Virginia won the Big 12 tourney as a 2 seed in the women's. Valid or void?
So, I mean, first off, let's just call it like it is. It's not as unprecedented on the men's side for a 2 seed to win it as it is on the women's side. I'm going to void this. But, I mean, obviously Houston can win this thing. I mean, they won the Big 12 regular season and tournament championship last year, and they won the Big 12 regular season but lost the tournament championship the year before that. And they have lost 3 straight ranked games before closing the regular season on a 3-game winning streak. So I just think that foundation entering this is more shakier than West Virginia's was in comparison to those two. Also, like, I think Iowa State is very much in the picture for winning this thing because they've won it. There's a history here that suggests they can win it because they call this, Hilton South. So, I mean, I think they're credible to win this thing from a non-1 seed standpoint. So, I mean, I'm going to avoid it. Houston's just interesting to me. I mean, like, something called Chase McCarty just scored 20 points for Houston. What? Where'd this dude come from? So I guess maybe they're trying to still figure some things out and lengthen their bench as most teams are shrinking their bench. I don't know what this says. I thought Houston, when the season started, was my pick to win the national championship. I don't know what to do with Houston now.
McCarty will be an all Big 12 player next year. It's my bold pick. Kelvin Sampson, I'm telling you, this kid is the real deal. He hasn't been on the floor.
Yeah, he may end up being the most valuable player in the Big 12 tournament here. Who knows?
No, he can shoot it. Dude, he's their best pure shooter. So the last 3 Big 12 tournaments, either a 1 seed or a 2 seed have won the thing, and the only 2 seed to win it was Iowa State because Iowa State packs the house at the T-Mobile Center. Typically, these tournament-style games come down to just who has the deeper bench, who shoots the ball better, because these teams know each other inside and out. There's no deep dive scout. Everybody knows everybody. I just think Arizona's going to take it. I think Arizona's got the deepest bench. They're the most physical. They're not going to lose their legs like some of these other teams in the Big 12 tournament. So I'm going chalk. I think we will have a very chalky tournament up in KC.
That's it, guys.
All right, there's Valid or Void. Thanks to Taman Turner. T-Chain's our producer with James Wesley. I'm Ari Temkin. All right, let's hop aboard the Spring Caravan and make a quick stop in Ames, Iowa. Our Modelo Spring Road Trip touring Big 12 country continues with Iowa State next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Check out the top plays from Big 12 men's basketball starting 5.
"12-0 run for Cincinnati. BYU scoreless for 3.5 minutes plus. Robert Wright trying to get some space.
Because Ahmed did a good job of moving his feet and playing defense without fouling.
Now Robert Wright, the third, off balance, extending the arm for the finger roll. A little bit of a miscommunication. I think Chom was expecting a pass closer to the rim. Here's Wright for 3. Good start for BYU. A game ago against Oklahoma State, knocks down the triple here in the second half.
Here's that offense clicking. Rob Wright hit a 3. They're going to be right there on Selection Sunday.
No doubt about it. Robert Wright weaving through traffic after the Mustafa Chom bucket on the other end. Wright's got 15. Chom has 11. Nothing?
Not one thing.
That's disappointing.
Not like a not a T-shirt,
not a medal,
not one,
a pin,
not one thing,
not a brooch. Now, you can get hot late and prove yourself and get some marquee wins.
Absolutely.
And then the selection committee has to make a tough decision. A rare turnover for Cincinnati.
And now Wright the other way. Wright. Oh, nice quick move, a little hesitation, and off the wrong foot, put it in. Wright flips it in. Nice move by Robert Wright III. And a rebound pulled down by Boop. Wright.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that hesitation.
Ryan, who has not played tonight, they just both lose right, and that's not a smart play.
This is Modelo Spring Football with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Modelo Spring Football, earned, not given. The full-time fan knows no off-season, which is why we bring you the Spring Caravan. Hop aboard as we head out to Ames, Iowa. We are presented by Modelo. Talk a little Iowa State football. Modelo's off-season fan rule number 31. Off-season doesn't mean off. It means research.
Research.
All right, so let's do a little research. Talk Iowa State football because a lot of research is needed here. You cannot understate the roster turnover here at Iowa State. More than 50 players entered the portal following Matt Campbell's departure, 16 of whom were starters in 2025. Iowa State brings back 0 starters of last year's squad and landed over 45 transfers from the portal. So, to put that in historical context, there was not a team in the country that lost as many starters from last year to the portal as the Cyclones. So this is a full-on reset. Now, there is precedent here with Jimmy Rogers because he just kind of did this at Washington State and helped Washington State get to a bowl game in year one despite a massive turnover in roster. And he even looked back on last year as a trying year for him, which you'll hear in our interview with him coming up, which is sort of surprising considering I would think a lot of people would look at it as a success, but shows you the standard that Jimmy Rogers has. Where do you want to start with this team because it's so new?
I would start with Jimmy Rogers. You know, this is a guy that was the head coach at South Dakota State for 2 years and was really the guy that got them over the hump in terms of ending North Dakota State's run as FCS national champs. He's 33-9 in 3 years, and that includes the 6-6 mark at Washington State. At Washington State, he had to bring in 75 newcomers. At Iowa State, that number's around 50. They do have about 40 returners, but they're guys that were buried on the 2-deep, to your point. All of the starters really like Matt Campbell. They follow him to Penn State. But what he did at Washington State, I think that would be kind of my launching point because at Oregon State, which was in a similar situation, the Pac-12 gets blown up. Those are the two leftovers. They don't have a league. They're trying to piece together a schedule. They actually played each other twice. Oregon State, 4 games into the year, fired their coach. They're a total mess. At Washington State, they were starting to build something. And I think that is Jimmy Rogers. I think he's a really underrated coach. But obviously it starts with all the turnover at Iowa State. I like the quarterback, Jalen Raynor, who they bring in from Arkansas State. He was the 2023 Freshman of the Year in the Sun Belt. He has some really nice numbers over the course of his career. And Iowa State obviously is familiar with him because they've played him the last 2 seasons in the non-conference. So those are kind of the bright spots, is Rodgers has done this before, and you've got a dual-threat quarterback who is a very legitimate dual-threat option as a runner.
Yeah, here is what Jimmy Rogers said about the transfer portal.
If you don't adapt, you're going to be dying in this profession. So for me, it's all about, is there a new way or a better way to do something? If there's not, then don't change it, right? If you're having success and you believe in it, don't change it because ultimately you're leading a team and they got to feel the belief that you have in the program in which you're guiding. And then there are things along the way that you have to adjust that you know aren't good enough. And that's always something that I've always prided myself on, that you got to find a different way to teach somebody certain things or a different system of getting information to players quicker so that they can learn and grow at a much faster rate. Because I would say in college football right now, with the rosters trimming to 105, you have to get players faster or get players ready faster. And that's giving them the information, how you give them the information, how you teach it to them, allowing them to absorb it, and then being able to correct them in order to play as quick as they possibly can. If they're good enough, they should be playing for you. That's our job as coaches, to teach them and give them the knowledge to impact the team quicker than you used to, I should say.
Yeah, great insight there from a coach that gets the modern era. I think this team will be better defensively than offensively. I think this year offensively will be a slog. It's not going to be the most aesthetically pretty offense, I think, but defensively they bring in Jesse Bobbitt, who is a former player for Rodgers at South Dakota State. He was the DC at Washington State, and they held opponents to just 20.2 points per game in 2025, including 13.5 points in the final 9 games. So you talk about teaching guys the scheme and having them, learn it quick. I think that's a pretty good example of it. They were number 15 nationally in total defense. And again, he took over in 1 year at Washington State and turned them to 15th nationally in total defense. They generated 31 sacks in the season. And, so that group with Jesse Bobbitt comes in, and it's mostly the same group from Washington State. They also bring in former Toledo co-defensive coordinator Ross Watson. So I think the continuity with the defensive staff, to me, lends itself to having a successful defense for Iowa State this year. Plus, that's obviously in Jimmy Rogers' bag, his defensive football. He's a defensive player. He was a defensive coordinator. Now, this is a good defensive outfit.
And Iowa State, I think, is going to be very similar to what Washington State was last year in that maybe not the most talented team in the league, but if you overlook them, they can be a real problem. Like Washington State had North Texas on the ropes in the non-conference. They had Ole Miss on the ropes in the non-conference. They almost beat Ole Miss. They bring in Cameron Petaway, a running back / special teams specialist, if you will, in terms of kick and punt returns from Bowling Green. He was the MAC Freshman of the Year last year, and he led the nation. And that's one area I've identified, special teams, where they could be really good. Cameron Petaway led the country in kick return averaged over 33 yards per kick return, and had a couple of kick return touchdowns. Then they bring in Omari Hayes, who's listed as a receiver from Tulane. He was at Florida Atlantic before that. Had over 500 yards receiving, second team All-American Conference as a punt returner. He's very dynamic. He also had some rushing numbers. He's a little guy, 5'9", but very shifty. And then I look in the trenches. That's another area that, maybe they're overmatched in terms of talent and size, but they do have some guys that could be really good. Like they bring in Jake Taylor, who's a transfer from Oklahoma. He's 6'6". He's massive. He was a highly rated 4-star recruit in 2022, but he's battled injuries and only played in 4 games last year at Oklahoma. But he's a high upside swing tackle if he can stay on the field. So there are some little things like special teams, offensive line that you just know Jimmy Rogers is like Matt Campbell. They're going to be rock solid in. But in terms of talent, yeah, there's a drop-off, no doubt.
Well, and when you look at the transfer portal, this is basically a MAC all-star team. Yeah. I mean, they've got all MAC guys everywhere. You mentioned Petaway. Masai King is an offensive tackle from Akron. Was a highly rated tackle in the MAC last year. Braden Owls from Toledo is maybe their best transfer portal addition, who's a first-team All-MAC safety who had was tied for 6th in the nation with 5 interceptions last year.
And he had an elite run defense grade from Pro Football Focus, among the best in the country, over 90.5.
So, can you turn a MAC All-Star team into a credible competitive team of the Big 12? Because that's what this is basically. Mm-hmm. Now, there's transfer players that come from outside the MAC, but for the most part, they got a bunch of guys from the MAC, which is a pretty notable football conference, but that's what they're up against, basically.
Right. And they've got Kyle Conrarty back at kicker. That's another little thing on special teams where they could be really good. Like defensively, they're going to look a lot different, but I just think under Jesse Bobbitt, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be assignment sound. They're going to have really outstanding communication. And then it's offensively, can they win the field position battle and kind of grind their way to 6 wins this year? That's the benchmark for me. If you get to a bowl game, which Jimmy Rogers has been in the postseason every year that he's been a coach, that would be a huge accomplishment for Iowa State.
Yeah, let's talk about the offense now. It's Tyler Roll who steps in. He comes back to Iowa State after spending a last year with Detroit and the Lions organization. And I think this is going to be a run-first offense. The question is who emerges, from an offensive line standpoint. They brought in 10 transfers on the offensive line, so they'll figure out who their 5 best are going to be, and there's some guys certainly that'll be in the conversation. But then it comes down to, is Cameron Petaway their lead back here as a guy that's, 5'10", 175 pounds, and seems more like a scat back because of what he can do in the return game?
No, I think it'll be running back by committee because they also have Sladaheen Allah, who's a transfer from Oregon State, and Oregon State had one of the best rushers in the country in his last name was Hankerson. Can't remember his first name. But Allah was like the change of pace back. He's a big 230-pound kid. averaged over 6 yards per carry. I think he's a nice addition. River Peppers is one of the guys that stayed, who's a redshirt freshman and was one of the highest-rated recruits in Iowa State football history. He's a really high-level running back. And then Aiden Flora is another guy that kind of plays that H-back position for Iowa State. So I think between those four, it's going to be running back by committee, kind of like it was with Hansen and with Abu Sama or with the previous regime. You know, at receiver, they add Jordan Bailey, who TCU was really high on when he transferred to TCU, but he didn't see the field a ton last year. He transfers within the league. And then it's Evan Boyd, a transfer from Michigan State, who was a highly touted recruit for them, just really young. And then Carter Pabst, who's a Washington State guy. You know, he brought in almost 20 guys from Washington State. So, you know, it's kind of the bad news bears that they've thrown together to put a team on the field. But there are some pieces that it's like, okay, I could see them maybe finding 6 wins.
Here's what new coach Jimmy Rogers said about the amount of transfers they're bringing in.
Yeah, we'll return 44 players from last year's team to this year's team. 28 freshmen. 8 of those freshmen are currently mid-year enrollees, and then the 81 transfers. Now, all of these transfers aren't people that it's not like I don't know them. Several of these players came with me from Washington State, just like my initial move from South Dakota State to Washington State. I had brought 29 players from South Dakota State with me to Washington State. So, and then there are many players that made this transition again with me when I came here. And then obviously there's the relationships that we've had in the past with players that I've recruited or coaches on our staff have recruited that maybe we didn't get them in recruiting coming out of high school, and there was a prior relationship. As far as not had 81 meals with families, I've had 81 sit-down one-on-one meetings for every kid that's come through this building, as well as every player that left the building. I had the opportunity to meet the current team. That was maybe different this year than it was last year. I had the opportunity to sit down with our players one-on-one for 45 minutes to an hour and figure out the positives of Iowa State and things that they've liked, things that they enjoyed, things that they would want to see changed, and then just their overall feel if they were going to be entering the transfer portal or not. They were great. Many had decided to leave and go to Penn State or look for another home elsewhere, but I feel like we got the right group of guys to stay, guys that were passionate about staying here and continuing their career here at Iowa State. And then I'm excited about the guys that we were able to bring in. I know it's somewhat crazy to even think about putting together a team with 81 new players. At the end of the day, and I know nobody likes to hear this is the modern era of college football.
Yeah. Look, I mean, here's a coach that gets it. That's a great, I think, piece. He was asked, this was when he was on with Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer was like, all kind of hilarious from the standpoint of like, I can't believe we're talking about negotiating with kids here. And like, come on, Urban, don't act like you didn't pay players. Like, come on.
Right.
But Urban basically said, like, before I signed a kid, I would go and have a meal with them and their family. So did you have, with 81 transfers, did you have 81 meals? That's where he referenced the 81 meals piece. And he's like, well, I didn't have 81 meals, but I had 81 sit-downs.
81 sit-downs. That's a lot of meetings. I mean, that's a...
Yeah.
It's a detail-oriented, high-energy, young coach thing to do that I think Iowa State fans, frankly, I think Iowa State fans are going to love this guy. I really do. He's blue-collared, he's a hard worker, he's high energy, and I think that we are going to see in his first year signs that he is the right guy for Iowa State. And remember, I mean, whether they knew Matt Campbell was leaving before it was public or not, they hired Jimmy Rogers immediately. It was almost a coincided announcement that Campbell was going to Penn State and Jimmy Rogers was going to be the next coach at Iowa State, which says a lot about Jamie Pollard and the fact that he's had his eye on him for some time. And his teams at South Dakota State were really good. And then that 1 year at Washington, I just feel like he is the perfect fit for Iowa State.
That's James. I'm Ari. Let's hear from Jimmy Rogers next. As our spring caravan rolls along in Ames, Iowa, we are presented in this spring road trip by Modelo touring Big 12 country, because the offseason does not mean off. It just means research. Jamie Rogers is next. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Check out the top plays from the Big 12 men's basketball starting five.
I don't think Kansas, even off of a made, is going to come out and try to contest those shots. If Truitt wants to take them, Bill Self is more than willing to allow that.
Badunga with the kick out and the three for Trey White.
Really got into the ball. Much better from KU. Here's White.
Shot fake, got free, and that two will drop for Trey White. Good find. White filling it up. Gets his own miss and puts it back in. Here comes Kansas. White, step in three. Oh, he snaps that twine, and Kansas with a 9. Get a touch in the paint, out for a three from White. Good reset by Trey White to get a good look for three.
2 possessions at 2-3 zone from the Sun Devils. 2 made threes from the Jayhawks.
Kansas with only 1 timeout remaining. White steps into a three, banks it home. And now there's that timeout utilized
Back inside Big 12
Rogers.
today here on
Hey,
Big
Coach,
12
thanks for your
Radio,
time.
part of our spring football series, breaking down all 16 member institutions. And today our spring football caravan takes us up to Ames, Iowa, to talk with new Iowa State football coach Jimmy Rogers. Hey, Coach, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Man, we're excited about your addition to the Big 12. You know, you walked into a very difficult situation at Washington State, and to win 6 games there, I thought was incredible. Like, you look at Oregon State, and they're 3 or 4 games into their season. They haven't won a game, and they fired their coach. Meanwhile, you get a Washington State team to 6 wins. Similar situation in terms of roster turnover, but what attracted you ultimately to this job, and what makes you such a great fit?
Yeah, well, I spent most of my career in South Dakota. I played at South Dakota State as a player, and then that's where I got into coaching. And so I got really used to this area. I grew to love the Midwest. I'm originally from Chandler, Arizona. So recruiting this type of player in the Midwest, particularly in Iowa, I'd had a lot of success with Iowa players and positionally coaching them at linebacker. And I just always loved like the people of Iowa. It's an area in which I could see raising my kids, safe community, and that's always kind of the prerequisite for me as far as I got to want to live there and I got to want to raise my family or my kids here. And it's a no-brainer for me. Being the Big 12, have the opportunity to compete for a Big 12 championship and then make a run at a college football playoff. Those were always dreams of mine, especially at the FCS level. It was a no-brainer. Just I felt like it was the right fit, and having the leadership of Jamie Pollard here and having that relationship prior to getting offered this job, I always appreciated, how he let Matt Campbell, do his job and bring his staff along from Toledo. And those are things that were really important to me as a coach, is that as I grew and had success and I can kind of pick a job, I wasn't going to take a job and not do it with the staff that helped me get there. So in making this transition, it was easy when I had the opportunity to get offered it from Jamie, because I knew what I was getting myself into, and I was getting back to the Midwest where I really wanted to raise my family and was able to go out and recruit to a high profile school like Iowa State.
I don't know if you've heard, but it sounds like you've got 81 new players. I don't think anybody's mentioned that at all. I'm sure not to you either.
I broke my own record. Last year was 76 at Washington State. So yeah, I gained experience just in doing this. I don't think anybody else has done it back-to-back years. It's just the new era of college football. I've learned some things along the way, things I would have done different had I had known at Washington State, and feel like we'll be better off because of it. And coming from a place that I had spent my entire career as a player and as a coach at South Dakota State, the importance of culture, the importance of bonding, the importance of team connection and chemistry. I learned that last year at Washington State, and I didn't do enough of it. And then doing it again now in back-to-back seasons, put a lot of emphasis on blending people together, because you can have a great group, a great team with a lot of talent, but if they don't play for something bigger than themselves, you'll just be average. So the team connection part of things, and try to create competitive maturity with 81 new players, and 44 returners. I'm doing things a different way than what has been done in the past for the 44. And then when you have 81, majority of your team doesn't know what to expect outside of the ones that came with me. So things are a little bit different here than what they were in the past, but I do think, I'm living in different circumstances too than the prior regime of being able to recruit and retain high school players over years and build a culture. It's really sped up. And so my emphasis right away when I got this job was connection, and from coach to coach, from coach to player, and allowing our players to feel in their skin and be comfortable being with us and feeling comfortable to fail. Because I think that's where growth happens, is that they feel comfortable that they can fail and doing their best. They just can't get comfortable failing. And there's a big difference between those two things.
Well, Coach, of the 81 that joined you at Iowa State, you touched on it, a lot of those guys coming with you from Washington State. I'm curious, how many guys did you take with you from South Dakota State to Washington State that leveled up that are maybe with you now? And just how much is the familiarity going to help with the stuff you're talking about, like connection and culture building and all those intangibles?
Yeah, I can't give you the exact number off the top of my head. I know Max Balloon, who is he's the grandpa of the team. He's a 7th-year guy. He ended up tearing his ACL last year versus University of Washington. He's been with me from the jump. He was with me at South Dakota State from the initial part of his career to Washington State last year. I brought a lot of seniors with me from South Dakota State to Washington State.
Okay.
And then I brought 14 players that were in my signing class at South Dakota State with me to Washington State, and several of those players are with me now, especially at the DB position, and one at the wide receiver position. So I've known those guys now for close to 3 years, and so it makes it easier because they know who I am. That always helps, but at the same time, no different than what I told the crew that was coming from South Dakota State to Washington State. The best players are going to play, and it was the same thing that was said to the Washington State players that were coming with me. I'm a real honest person, a genuine person, and I value competitive maturity and the ability to showcase your skill set and the ability to compete and take somebody's job. So everybody came here with the expectations of competing at the highest level and trying to chase a Big 12 championship, but it will be done with honesty and it will be done the right way and giving people the opportunity to showcase their skill set to earn a starting position and have an impact on the team.
With all these new players, with new coaching staffs, a new defense, a new offense, just take us through kind of your approach to spring and, install, especially on the defensive side. I know we've talked about this before, but it is a lot different than what they've been running at Iowa State previously under John Haycock, 4 down front versus a 3 down front. And of course, they were rushing 3 and dropping 8 into coverage. You're more of a traditional set. So just take us through kind of your approach to spring and install offense and defense.
Yeah, I think everything starts with the initial verbiage and just understanding what words mean, having a glossary of terms that understand what they mean, because, you say words like bounce and force and all of these phrases inside of football, but if your players don't have a reference point of what you're talking about, you'll lose them immediately. So again, it's peeling back the layers of every word that you say has a meaning and has a purpose. And so you got to teach them that. You got to teach them what your formational structures are, what you call things schematically. And then there's got to be the actual teaching of the scheme and how you want people, how you want your players to react, respond, and attack. And there's a step-by-step process of that. So every week they've kind of learned something different. But initially it started with the verbiage and the understanding of what we were talking about and the communication and what they should be saying and whose job is what. And then we'll start with more walkthroughs and team settings leading into spring ball. So we've trained for, this is going on the last week. Next week will be the last week of the second cycle of training. And then they'll have spring break, and when they get back, we'll run them a little bit for the first couple of days just to make sure that their body's underneath of them, and then we'll start spring ball the Thursday after spring break on March 26th. So from that point, we'll finish up April 25th, and we'll give them some things to continue to learn and grow from. And then we'll send them home for a little break, and then they'll be back in the summer, and we'll restart the teaching all over again from ground zero. This time they'll just be more comfortable inside of the scheme with the prior knowledge going into spring ball, with spring ball in itself, and then they'll be able to kind of sharpen the saw this summer prior to starting fall camp. When we start fall camp, I'm going to expect us to know it and really be competitive and competing, and then take the jump through fall camp as far as situational football and the small nuances inside of the game and understanding the clock at a better level to win close games. The Big 12 has the smallest margin of victory of all the Power 4 conferences. So having football intellect is going to be critical as far as your players understanding, little nuances inside of the game on how to gain clock, how to absorb clock, and then being able to work with each other. I think more than anything else matters the most. Team connection and chemistry, I don't think just happens. It's created through trials and tribulations throughout the course of your time together. Every team is different, though, and every team will continue to be different in this new landscape of college football. But it is about connecting every year as if it's its own year.
Talking with Iowa State new football coach Jimmy Rogers here, part of our spring preview, going through each and every school. We highlight the Iowa State Cyclones today. Coach, what do you like about Jalen Rayner, the quarterback transfer from Arkansas State, who's a veteran guy? He's played a ton of snaps, dual threat, and has had all the numbers in the world. What makes him such an attractive candidate as you have, an open competition for that position?
Yeah, when you meet Jalen, you can feel his leadership, his moxie, his charisma. He's just a really confident kid, and you can tell he's comfortable in his skin, which I think is extremely important. But in knowing him for the last 90 days, I would say his work ethic is awesome. His play style, I think, is needed in the new college football, as far as he's able to make plays off schedule. He's able to, extend plays with his legs. He got rushed a lot at Arkansas State, and his ability to escape the pocket and throw, off the platform and complete balls and make big plays. It was impressive. The thing that I liked most about him is that he every year got better and better and better, and he had put up good numbers. The intrigue for me was not just his skill set, but it was also in the understanding that this was going to be a new system. I hired Keith Heckendorf, who was the offensive coordinator at Arkansas State, who was his quarterback coach. And so for somebody coming in, that was already planned to hire Coach Heckendorf. But it was kind of a no-brainer when you look at building a team. You have a coach that's coached this player that raves about the kid, but also can be the bridge of knowledge of a new system to that player, and say, this is just said differently. And I think those things are really important because we don't have time. We expect to win now. I don't really believe in rebuilding years. I think everybody has their own issues with the transfer portal, and nobody's going to feel bad for us. So it's our job to put a product on the field to go out and be competitive right now, and not say, well, it's going to take time. I'm not going to allow myself or anybody on this staff to, bring their level down of competition or competitiveness or expectation just because we're new to a new place. It's still football. You still got to be tough, and you still got to have a system, and you got to get people to play together, and you just have to do it faster than ever.
Yeah, and look, there's proof of concept there. You did it last year with 76 new players and a 6-6 record in a very similar situation. So how much of that is translatable in terms of the success you had year one at Washington State with 76 new players?
Yeah, I think it could be done. If you were to ask me, I feel like we left a lot of games out there last year, and it was disappointing, honestly. In my time of ever competing in sports, I don't know if I've ever been on a losing team. Last year might have been the most amount of losses I've experienced in my life.
Wow.
So, yeah, that last year was tough. We took Ole Miss to the wire, but unless you watched the game, you didn't know how well we played. We should have beat Virginia, and then we were beating JMU the whole time. And there were critical moments inside of games that we let slip. And, I take blame for that as far as the coaching and the players being prepared enough to close out those games. But you look back at that season, and there's no doubt about it that we should have been, 10-2, win out and have opportunity to, potentially be in the college football playoff. Those things I don't forget. I probably take losing harder than I ever enjoy winning, because you feel like you're accountable. Your players are counting on you to put them in position, and so when you don't have the outcome that you want, you feel like you let them down. And those things matter more to me than the overall record. It's just the product to be proud of when you're done playing, that you did it the right way and you were prepared and your players were prepared. And then they play with a certain level of physicality and toughness throughout a game that teams watch you and they don't want to play you. That's the overall goal.
Last one for me, Coach, and I think fans everywhere are clamoring for the answer to this question. Is Iowa State still going to be rocking the all-black alternates?
Yeah, I think so. And it ain't because of me. The players like them, and I'm more concerned about our players than I am what I think is cool. I don't even care what we wear. That gets asked a lot. I care how we play because I think your jersey looks a lot better when you play well.
Well, I mean, Matt Campbell loved the black hat. It was kind of, and I always said, like, nobody dislikes their colors more than Iowa State because they're constantly wearing black and Campbell's wearing black. So you got a black hat on right now. I know it's not an Iowa State hat.
I like black. I like the neutral colors, black, gray. I do like the all cardinal, jerseys. I do like the all cardinal. But at the end of the day, I don't. Again, I let the players pick the jersey combination. I really can care less. It gives ownership into something small that they have the final say in.
Yeah, I think we have you on record, and we can help push the narrative that you don't care what colors you're wearing as long as you're winning football games.
As long as you win, that's all I care about. Because
Awesome
I can
stuff.
tell you, you can wear whatever you want. If you lose, everybody hates the fact that they don't care
Right.
what you just care that you lost.
Exactly. Yeah, that's well said. Jimmy Rogers, Iowa State football coach. Thanks for your time. Welcome to the Big 12. Can't wait to continue to get to know you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Jimmy Rogers, head football coach at Iowa State, part of our Spring Caravan series here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios as we highlight the Iowa State Cyclones today.
Check out the top plays from Big 12 men's basketball starting five.
"12-0 run for Cincinnati. BYU scoreless for 3.5 minutes plus. Robert Wright trying to get some space.
Because Ahmed did a good job of moving his feet and playing defense without fouling.
Now Robert Wright, the third, off balance, extending the arm for the finger roll. A little bit of a miscommunication. I think Chom was expecting a pass closer to the rim. Here's Wright for three. Good start for BYU. A game ago against Oklahoma State, knocks down the triple here in the second half.
Here's that offense clicking. Rob Wright hit a three. They're going to be right there on Selection Sunday.
No doubt about it. Robert Wright weaving through traffic after the Mustafa Chom bucket on the other end. Wright's got 15. Chom has 11. Nothing?
Not one thing.
It's disappointing.
Not like a t-shirt.
Not a medal.
Not one.
Not a pin.
Not one thing.
Not a brooch. You can get hot late and prove yourself and get some marquee wins.
Absolutely.
And then the selection committee has to make a tough decision. A rare turnover for Cincinnati.
And now Wright the other way. Wright. Oh, nice quick move, a little hesitation, and off the wrong foot, put it in. Wright flips it in. Nice move by Robert Wright III. And a rebound pulled down by Booth. Wright.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that hesitation.
Ryan, who has not played tonight.
Today on Big 12 Radio, we are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. That is our Modelo Spring Football Caravan with Iowa State. We will continue that series tomorrow. Who do we have tomorrow? We're going a little bit out of order because we haven't gotten all coaches
Scott
yet.
Satterfield.
Going with Cincinnati tomorrow. A little spring preview of Cincinnati. One of the coaches we haven't yet talked with is Kenny Dillingham. Let's talk a little Arizona State football and Arizona State basketball with Chris Cartman from SunDevilSource.com. Chris, how are you?
Doing great. Getting ready for this Big 12 tournament opening game. ASU Baylor coming up in an hour and a half or something like that, right?
Yeah. Are you in KC?
2 hours. No, I sent somebody. Luke Lendler, who works for me, is there for us. It's a lot going on. Trying to monitor the coaching situation from here and getting ready for spring football.
Yeah, no, for sure. And football pays the bills, as we know. And it hasn't been a banner year for Arizona State. It's been very up and down. I mean, some impressive wins, Texas Tech and Kansas to name a few, and then some head-scratching losses. What do you make about this season?
Well, given all of the circumstances, they lost like all of their players except for Trevor Best, who's a fringe rotational player, and they were picked to finish last in the Big 12 in two separate polls by coaches and media. And they ended up being 7-11, and like you said, they easily could have won a few more games, and maybe even could have been like a bubble team, but they weren't able to get that done. I think that they exceeded expectations, at least externally. Bobby Hurley did a very good job of finding Masamba Diop and adding Maurice Odom and some other players who have done a good job. Maybe not sufficient for him to be able to keep his job, given that he was in the last year of his contract and may have needed an NCAA tournament to be able to get a new contract. But I can't really overly criticize what happened with the roster, given the challenges that they face. It's more the totality of ASU's basketball program, financial limitations, Hurley's inability to have more success in the NIL era in the preceding couple years.
What is the latest on Bobby Hurley? There were reports this morning that he's going to be out at Arizona State. Have you confirmed that? And what do you think the timeline might look like when you look at the coaching situation?
Yeah, so Bobby Hurley has told people close to him that he expects that he will not be retained as ASU's coach after the season. His contract ends in June. So, okay. But he has not met with Graham Rossini, ASU's athletic director. There's not been any conversation about this being the end of the road for him. It's more of an expectation on his part that that's what's going to be the end result. He had been told after last season, which I reported at the time, that ASU needed to make the tournament, the NCAA tournament this year, for him to be able to continue as the coach beyond that. So perhaps working off of that sentiment that had been expressed at the time and nothing really changing that in conversations in recent weeks and knowing where they're at right now with their situation. They either need to win the Big 12 tournament or maybe get to the championship to reasonably have a case to be a bubble team or maybe to make the tournament. So I think it's more of the anticipation and the expectation that this is what's going to happen rather than a conversation in which that's been expressed.
What's your overall feeling if this is the end of the Bobby Hurley tenure at Arizona State?
I'll remember him for somebody who was a grinder, worked really hard, had a lot of passion, and vigor, and I would say they weren't particularly reliable in terms of his teams and what you were going to expect from them. Like, they would beat Texas Tech and then they would lose to UCF after being up by 15 in the last 6 minutes. You know? Okay.
Yeah.
You have to have more of a more reliability. You can't have as much volatility. You can't have as much of a range of outcomes. This is a team that was beating Iowa State, by a big number, and then had a 20-something-0 run in the second half of the game and lost. There's just a lot of just huge swings. And look, there is a lot of that in basketball just generally, but ASU lost at home to Oregon State after leading a good bit late, and lost to Colorado at home and had a crazy collapse on the road, and nearly lost to Texas Tech after being up 20 at the half, like was up only 1 point late in the game. There's just like these huge swings, and he's known for being sort of a temperamental person on the sideline and with officials. I think that it's hard to not have that carry over to your players and your team.
Yeah.
And I think that has been a little bit of a challenge. So it's a positive thing, but there's also some drawbacks to it. But more than anything, though, I would say that ASU has a hard time financially. He wasn't able to retain his best players in any of the last few years. Part of that is he's got to be out there grinding on NIL and boosters. He's got a big name and a huge familiarity and famous guy. But also part of that is the university has to do a better job of helping bring money to the table that can be utilized for players. And that hasn't consistently been the case.
He will make an exceptional assistant coach if he doesn't want to be a head coach, or if he wants to stay in the game and not have to deal with NIL and just scout players, because the fact that he found Masamba Diop, that's the headline for me for this season. With that said, who are some potential candidates, in your opinion, if he does, in fact, get let go?
Well, yeah, there was a time maybe 6 to 8 years ago. I don't remember exactly what year it was, about 6 years ago, where he was a serious candidate at St. John's, and it actually fell through late. And at that time, there was conversations between Greg McDermott's agent in ASU and Randy Bennett in ASU Now those guys are older and they're in different stages of their careers now. I don't know if they're going to be as interested now, especially we're in this NIL era, which wasn't the case back then, and the rev share and all that. There's whispers that Greg McDermott may even retire after this year potentially. So the landscape has changed a lot. I think Graham Rossini's preference or his tendency is to want to go young and hungry and aggressive. Eric Olin at New Mexico was at UC San Diego, and he's been watched closely, and that's like the type of guy. I'm just curious if ASU is going to have the financial package that's going to be able to present, not necessarily from a salary standpoint, but more so in terms of how much revenue sharing and NIL to be able to attract these top up-and-coming mid-major coaches like at St. Louis or Utah State or New Mexico, Josh Schertz or some of these other guys. And there's a possibility that it ends up being somebody that's a little bit obscure, like maybe somebody who's been really successful in their first year or second year at a low to mid-major, and is not one of the most in-demand coaches this cycle. And I'm going to try to find out who some of those names might be here in the next couple days.
Yeah, what is the financial picture for Arizona State? And I think I saw, aren't they renovating the arena, which it needs an overhaul. It has a ton of potential. But where does Arizona State sit when it comes to all of that?
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-year process to 3 phases. Most of the work being done in the off season. So they're going to start phase 1 after the season. And, but really the arena is not going to be a finished product for a few years. And by that point in time, a new coach is already a few years into the job. So you can't really reap as many of the benefits probably until that is a shiny new toy that you have to play with. Financially, look, ASU is very committed to football from a rev share standpoint. Men's basketball at a place like ASU is going to be on average around 15% of rev share. That's over $3 million maybe. Problem is that somebody like AJ DeBanza is personally, individually making $5 to $7 million. Masamba Diop next year is probably going to be worth $2 million or more if he goes out into the marketplace as one of the top centers with remaining eligibility, who's young and up and coming. NIL, not a whole lot to speak of, like maybe $1 million or to $2 million. So if you look at a lot of these Big 12 rosters, they have at least 8 to 10 million between revenue share and NIL. And that's according to people in the industry, coaches, agents, etc. And ASU's half of that. So to be able to entice some of these really bigger name up and coming coaches that are going to have options, a lot of times, not always maybe, but their agents or them personally are going to want to know, okay, how much money am I going to be able to have toward my roster without me having to go out there and be a used car salesman to be able to acquire that. And if those conversations happen at ASU, it's not going to lead to a very encouraging perspective, I don't think. So we'll see, but this is the inherent challenge at a place like ASU, which doesn't have a very large booster network of high net worth people who are focused on fixing this problem. And it is a problem because ASU hasn't been to the Sweet 16 in 20 something years now.
I want to get a quick football question in, and that is, how optimistic should we be about Cutter Boley?
Yeah, I actually met with him last week on Thursday for a podcast interview that we taped, and it's coming out this week, along with Amarion Miller's star wide receiver transfer. I'm pretty impressed by him, like cerebral, well thought out answers in perspective, has passion, work ethic. Big kid, like he's 6'5", 220, and he's going to still add 20 pounds.
Wow.
He can make all the throws. I think he's a little bit better athlete than people realize. Like he's not explosive, sudden, but he can actually get out and run well, and he can do some RPO stuff. He was turnover prone, and he was a first-year redshirt freshman starter in the SEC, playing against really good teams most weeks, really great defenses. But he said, hey, had a tendency to try to want to do too much in my first year as a starter. And you got to be more smart situationally and recognize that, hey, something that's a little bit riskier is not worth it. We have to play complementary football, offense, defense, special teams, make sure we're taking care of the football. But I think he has a lot of the intangibles that I think will translate well at ASU, and certainly has a passion for the game and for his team, and wanting to be a leader.
Chris Cartman, Sun Devil Source. Chris, you're the best. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Be well.
My pleasure. You too, guys. See ya.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. There's Chris Cartman joining us here. Big 12 today. Big 12 Radio presented by Manello. Heard on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios. All right. Let's catch up with a baseball player in the Big 12 next. Chaz McNeils joins us next. The Arizona outfielder. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Presented by Manello. Heard on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios.
From the
Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
He is big and strong. He looks like he walked on from the football team.
Another giveaway. Longarita threw it right to Isaiah Johnson, who goes coast to coast and puts it in, plus the foul.
Let alone a bad shot, and then it results in points at the other. And terrific finish by Isaiah Johnson. 87%, and the first half couldn't make a three. They're 5 for 5 this half.
Johnson slithers in.
What a season for number 5 in blue, Braden Burries. And now Johnson gets the three.
Yeah, talking about freshmen, you go from Burries to Johnson attack, and if you give him any room, he will knock down the three with authority.
7 on the shot clock for Colorado. Now Johnson, the lefty three is good.
Rich, stop it. Yes, a freshman.
6 points, 4 rebounds for Mo Krivas, one of the best big men in the country. Johnson got the crowd on his feet with that one. Win. And what would be a 29th record program win to end the regular season. But Barrington Hargress and his backcourt mates.
If you want to see Isaiah Johnson, watch him get through the traffic. He splits defenders. They're phenomenal. That you do not want to play them in the tournament.
Coming up on 1 minute to go. It's been a magical night for Isaiah Johnson, who has a new career high.
Now, if he's taking your threes, you can live with that because he's done that all year. Separate, knock down the three. And again, there's plenty of time.
Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Well, from Tempe now to Tucson, talk Arizona baseball here with Chaz McNellis, the Arizona outfielder. Chaz, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. No Baby G with you, huh?
No Baby G. He just left, actually. He's back in Vegas.
Nice. Okay, great. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's just talk about your season so far and how's it been going?
We started off slow for sure. We got some hurt. We got a lot of hurt guys right now, but we're picking the pace up for sure. We're getting everyone healthy. I'm getting back healthy, and the vibes are so good. And we know we can win games. So we're picking the momentum back up, and we're excited to bring it down to ASU today.
Man, you were the poster child for fighting through adversity and just an incredible story that I really enjoyed reading about. So why don't you, as Ari alluded to, tell us who is Grayson and the story behind him?
Of course. Grayson is my son. He's 1 year and 3 months. I had him while I was playing JUCO baseball back in Las Vegas, College of Southern Nevada. Very stressful time. But it's just he's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I feel like, and it was when I redshirt. So I found out I was having a kid when I was a redshirt at my community college. So I thought everything was just going downhill, but I flipped the switch. I was like, no, I'm gonna take this opportunity and go with it. And I was just playing the cards I was dealt, kind of. So, but it gave me so much motivation, and my family and just everyone's support has just got me to where I am right now. So I'm incredibly grateful for that.
And you've got Baby
Cool.
G Grayson featured all over your IG, your Instagram page, and TikTok, and so what's been kind of the reaction, and how often is he with you in Tucson?
Yeah, so everyone's first reaction is like they think he's so adorable, and he'll put on a little show. He'll put on his face, his game face, like he'll start smiling and laughing with everyone, and he'll go up and talking to everyone, and yeah, it's been great for sure. So so what's the second? Sorry, what's the second thing you asked?
So how often is he with you in Tucson? You mentioned he's back in
Sorry.
Vegas.
So it's actually like every week or every other week because my mom is thankfully able to bring him down so much, and the plane ride is so short. It's only 45 minutes. Baby G does great on the plane, so he's down here like yeah every week, every other week. I like to get him down anytime we're playing home series, because he loves our field. He loves my teammates, and the fans love him. So, yeah.
And so he was also born with a couple of holes in his heart. So can you kind of
Yep.
tell us what happened there?
Of course. So when we were getting ultrasounds before he was born, the doctors kind of noticed something in his heart. So we started going to heart specialists, and they said he has two holes in his heart, which
Wow.
wouldn't close by the time he's born. But the holes are common holes. Like usually they'll close on their own for babies, but his wasn't going to because they're too big. So they had to do open heart surgery when he was 6 months old. That was so it was right before I came down to Arizona
Wow.
and moved down here. So it was, yeah, definitely very stressful. It was a hard time for sure, but he fought, and he was supposed to be in the hospital for a week to recover, but he was done in 3 days. So he fought real hard. That made me super proud too.
Well, with a nickname like Baby G, I mean, he's already a legend. So he's got that going for him. What have you learned about fatherhood? What are some of the challenges and some things that you hear about being a parent and then you're in it and man, it is hard.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say patience and sleep for sure. I think I've gone to become 100 times more patient just because knowing like he's gonna cry. I mean, not or be fussy or not like something just for the smallest reasons. And right now they don't talk, so they can't tell you why they're mad or whatever. So you got to test everything out, and you just got to run it through. Like, oh, does he need a diaper? Does he like is he didn't yeah diaper change? Is he hungry? Does he just want to go outside? You just got to go through everything and find everything. So that part is definitely it was hard on me for me at first, but now I'm just super patient, and he's my whole world, and I always know that. So and I do anything to take care of him and protect him. And then during the nights, he's gotten a lot better. But when his teeth first started coming in, it was pretty rough. So he was crying a lot, but he's good now.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm 40 with two boys. I can't imagine
Yeah.
how dumb I was in college, and like I didn't even play sports in college, let alone like
Yeah.
going to college and playing baseball and being a dad. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow, you're growing up fast.
Oh my gosh, I know. I felt like I've aged at least 10 years in just two.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's awesome though. I love it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take it for the world.
Yeah, and I would agree with patience. That's a huge one. I'm still working on that, even with a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. Probably even more so.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? I know you said your parents help out, and obviously I'm sure you couldn't do it without them. But how do you manage work? Baseball, school, and a kid.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, yeah, support goes a long way, and it's also it's further than my family. I got everyone, all like the staff down here, my teammates, coaches,
Wow,
students, everyone down here loves them, and they're all willing to help out. So, like, and then also, like, obviously, my mom's down here, so she'll be able to stay at my apartment and like. While I need to do something, she'll be able to watch him, or like he'll also be sleeping. Of course, that'll help too, so I can get some homework done down here. Also, I'll be at the field. I can get some work done at the field, at the clubhouse too. And yeah, my teammates, they help. They feed them. They give them the bottle. They play with them, so I can get my warm up done, hitting and then stretching and all that. So it's just a whole bunch of support coming into one. So I'm very grateful for it, for sure.
Chaz McNellis joining us here on Big 12 today. Arizona baseball player, hit .443 at College of Southern Nevada, was a first-team JUCO All-American. Now, I understand you're dealing with a leg injury that happened late in the preseason. How's the recovery going, and where are you at through that process?
Yeah, so, unfortunately, a week before season, I got hit with a curveball during live at-bats in inter-squads, and it fractured my fibula bone, which is right above my ankle. The recovery's been really good, though. I've been healing every day. I just got out my boot about a week and a half ago, and we're aiming to be back on the field by like next weekend-ish. So very excited for that. Very excited to help out my team.
You mentioned at the start that it's been kind of a rough start for Arizona baseball. Starting 0-6 and 1-8, but a win over Vanderbilt, UC Irvine. Those are two premier programs, and then a sweep of Fresno. So you guys seem to be back on the right track. With that midweek Arizona game today. How do you baseball can be a sport of failure. So how do you guys kind of stay even keel with that 0-6, 1-8 start?
Yeah, definitely. We just keep belief because the games we're watching, we know we have what it takes to beat them. It's just what we have to do during certain situations. So we know we have the talent. We know we have the guys. We know we have everything, and so, we're just putting it together. We keep believing. We keep practicing harder and harder every day. And we just keep the vibes in the clubhouse very positive, and we just never give up on our teammates.
What does practicing harder look like in baseball? Not to ask a dumb question, but
yeah, no. That's yeah. So I mean, just bringing so much energy to practice, being excited to practice, doing every rep 100%, because in the game, you want to be going 100%, and that's what you'll be doing the whole time. So, you just want to keep doing that, keep having fun, because you want to have fun in the game. You don't want to be tense, but just bringing everything better to practice, not coming to practice mopey and, just,
Right down. Yeah, it makes tons of sense.
Yep, exactly. You can't be down during this time, especially now. You gotta stay up. You gotta stay positive. You gotta stay with your boys, your teammates. But yeah.
As far as you can tell, I know you haven't been out there yet, but what do you anticipate the biggest adjustments that you see and that you'll need to be dialed in when you get into Big 12 play?
No, yeah, definitely. So I see the pitching, the competition, just all of it combined. So like the pitching, obviously, it's just every best pitcher that I faced last year. Just everyone is going to be the best. So just staying on time with the fastball. Of course, everyone's throwing harder. They have better stuff, more consistent stuff. So I think in the box especially, it'll be the biggest adjustment because of because of the talent and obviously the speed. Just being able to stay and trust my process and just know I can do it. But I know the competition, like the pitching, will be so much better.
What are your goals for this season?
My goal is obviously to win the College World Series with my boys. I want to be my goal, first team All-American, Big 12 Player of the Year. Do everything I did in JUCO, but obviously be able to show I can do it here.
Man, I didn't realize Tucson was so big. I was about to pull up the population and talk about living in this tiny little college town.
Yeah, dude. No, yeah,
it runs deep. It runs deep. And everyone loves U of A too. I'll go wear my U of A baseball shirt everywhere down here, and even if I'm 30 minutes away from the field or the campus, they'll still show some love, and they'll treat me like family down here. So it's awesome.
That is awesome. How much do you guys interact with other athletes and basketball players, football players, and how much is that going on?
Yeah, so I mean, it's actually a lot because we have breakfast with them down at Bear Down Kitchen every morning.
That's
so
awesome.
It's like the athlete it's like where the athletes all go and they eat breakfast. And also at the beginning of the year, we had a big athlete orientation, so we got to meet all the athletes and introduce ourselves and just meet everyone. And Arizona does a really good job down here of just bringing all the athletes close together and keeping us close and just keeping us tight, kind of bringing us all as one family.
Great stuff. This has been a lot of fun. We appreciate it very much. Chaz McNellis, Arizona outfielder. Next time we have you on, we'll have to get Baby G on as well, man. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. He'll be here for sure.
That's awesome. Chaz. Congrats and good luck the rest of this year. Hope you reach your goals, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Chaz McNellis, man. Man, I could barely wake up for an 11 o'clock class, and I wasn't even an athlete in college. Can you imagine? That's incredible. Chaz McNellis.
It's all worth it.
It's all worth. There you go.
There we go.
Chaz McNellis joining us here. It's Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. 12 Radio. It's Big 12 today. Impressive young man, Chaz McNellis. He's, Arizona baseball star outfielder. He's a student, a father. Pretty wild.
Flies his 1-year-old from Henderson, Nevada, which is basically Vegas, the outskirts, to Tucson. It's only a 45-minute flight. The support that he has from his family is remarkable, and to be flying your child back and forth to spend quality time with a 1-year-old, like that says everything I need to know about Chaz McNellis, right? Who he is as a person, why he's an exceptional teammate, just a really cool human interest story there for Arizona baseball.
Yeah, well said. You really want to talk about this?
What are you looking at?
This prank story that you wrote in the rundown here?
I mean, we can. It's pretty dark. Have you read about it?
Yeah, the teacher was run over by a car and killed, and then the teens who did it were charged, and then the wife of the teacher is basically asking to have the charges dropped because the teacher who died wouldn't have wanted that.
Because it was an accident. He loved these kids.
And he was in on the prank.
He was in on the prank. But yeah, it is a wild story. So these kids are TPing his house, and they're pranking him, and they're making a bunch of sounds, and the teacher knows what's going on, and he comes out to
scare them,
confront them, whatever. Well, he's crossing the street, and he slips. It had just rained. He slipped, and it's late at night, and the teenagers who are fleeing the scene in a pickup run him over. They don't see him. He dies from the injuries. Like 8 teenagers were charged. Well, then the wife comes out and says, no, this was an accident. He wouldn't have wanted this. He loved those kids. They loved him. And they're dropping all the charges.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a prank gone wrong. I feel like there's many things in our society that, like, if this thing had gone the other way, there'd be no charge. Like, the action is what causes the charges and not the intent or the crime itself. Sometimes there's crimes committed that are not a big deal, but if the crime ends up leading to somebody dying or something way more severe, then suddenly the charges are more severe. It makes sense. That's a great, like, you think about some of the like I remember hearing like the moral, like, what's the right moral decision here? Like these moral conundrum questions, these moral puzzles, if you will. Like, that's what this is basically, like, right? Like, what's the right moral, ethical response in the wake of this?
Well, and I think I kind of buried the lead because the wife is saying that she's not going to file any type of lawsuit against the families, where there could be tremendous financial gain for her and their children from her husband's death. And they were living on 2 teacher salaries. And she has said that she's not going to pursue that. I think that's the biggest piece where people are like, wow, like, she could be getting millions of dollars from this accident. And at least as of now, she's not going that route.
Yeah, and maybe the bigger part of the story here is just how insane teachers' commitments are. Like, in all seriousness, teachers, I mean, they have an insane existence. They work their rear ends off. People are like, oh, teachers, they get summers off and spring break. Like, no, not really. They have to do work throughout, and even if they do get summers off, they're working, tons of nights. They work a lot, and the pay relative to the amount of work is not commensurate.
So I totally agree with you.
Like, it is a labor of love for people that do it, and those people are incredible people.
They are the real MVPs. It is a total disservice what they get paid for what, I mean, teachers are spending more time with your young kids than you are as parents.
Yeah.
Like, wrap your mind around that. Would you want that person making minimum wage or whatever it is that they actually get paid? Like, it blows my mind. Totally with you on that. I do have one other topic that I think you might enjoy a little bit more.
Okay.
I have found a system, and by me, I mean a guy who's a PhD professor at Stanford. All right?
But you found
slightly more qualified.
You found him, and you're a genius insofar as you found him.
So it's really going to help you fill out your NCAA tournament bracket.
Oh, this stuff is the best.
All right.
Like, there are so many tried and true methods, right? Like, this is the time of year for the methods. Oh, I've got it. I've got it's this one. It's the Ken Palm 40, Ken Palm 20 rule. It's this one. It's that. It's like, oh, everybody's got their own systems right now. I love it. Give it to me.
So the thing I love most about this one is it's super simple.
Okay.
It is a very simple way to pick the winners in your bracket.
Ooh, pick the mascot of the team you like the best?
Close but no cigar, but I do love that methodology. It's one of my favorites. I fill out all 20 brackets on ESPN's Bracket Challenge, all 20. And I have a different theme for each one.
Ooh, I like that.
My first bracket's my gut reaction bracket.
Yep,
and then
of
I have
course.
a guard play bracket.
Yep.
Best coach bracket, uniform bracket, mascot bracket, George Costanza bracket, where I just do the opposite of what I think the games will go. That one usually does really well.
Amazing.
All right, so this guy says that the preseason AP poll in men's basketball, predicting straight-up winners, not against the spread, has a 72% hit rate. 72% of tournament games are won by the higher-ranked team in the preseason poll.
What?
Now, this doesn't necessarily help you for those early round games, but the last couple of years there haven't been a ton of early round upsets. But once you get to like the round of 32, you can go through others receiving votes, and just about everybody's going to be there. 71.6% of NCAA tournament games are won by the higher-ranked team in the preseason poll. Not against the spread. That's just straight up when you're filling out your bracket. So I went and looked at the preseason poll.
What?
How about that?
I mean, basically what that says is pick
pull up the preseason
You're going to lose
poll.
some, but you're going to win the majority of the games.
Mm-hmm. Pull up the preseason poll. Now, here's the good news. Houston was the number 2 ranked team in this year's AP preseason poll. Purdue was number 1, Houston 2, Florida 3, UConn 4, St. John's was 5th, Duke 6th.
Where's Michigan?
BYU was number 8. Michigan was preseason 7th.
Got it.
So you look at the final poll. Duke, preseason number 6, they're up to number 1. Arizona, preseason number 13, they're up to number 2. Michigan, preseason number 7, up to number 3. But some of the teams, and this is what's interesting to me, because these teams have fallen and had underwhelming seasons, but if you go off of this, a 72% chance of advancing. Purdue, they're currently like number 18. They were preseason number 1. BYU is not even in the top 25. They were preseason number 8. Kentucky was preseason number 9. They're not ranked. Auburn was preseason number 20. They're not ranked. Texas Tech, preseason number 10. They're currently, 16th? And then Louisville, preseason number 11. They're currently 24th.
Auburn does seem like a team that could make a run because everybody's going to be so ticked off that they made the field.
Exactly.
And Miami of Ohio is the other one. They probably weren't ranked in the preseason.
No.
That's another one where it's like they're probably going to exceed expectations because everybody's going to be like, oh, they shouldn't be in, especially if they don't win the MAC championship.
Right. Could totally see it with Auburn. I remember a couple of years ago, somebody got in, they were barely above 500, and they won 2 games in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Because they'd played a brutal schedule, and they started playing Colorado State, and they're like, oh, this is much easier. I could totally see that with Auburn.
I also love that this method seems very unscientific, and you started this off with, this is just Stanford PhD guy.
Yes.
Like how unscientific. Just look at the preseason. Wait, you mean the poll that came out in September?
Yeah. Yeah, the October poll. Yeah, preseason poll, October 2025.
And how much do we make fun of the AP preseason poll in football?
Right.
That seems like the biggest joke of all, and yet in basketball, it's apparently the Nostradamus of picking games.
Remember, it's 6 polls into the season. I think it's early December. Every national champion has been ranked in the top 5 or whatever it is in that particular poll for the last almost 20 years.
The amount of scientific methods involved with picking a bracket is hysterical. I just picture lab coats and beakers and test tubes and all, walking around like a science lab, a total laboratory is you're trying to pick winners of games here or what?
Right.
The NCAA tournament, its beauty to me is about this. I've got the method. Oh, I've done it. I've been in the lab for years. And 80% of the time it works every time.
All right, the week 6, December 15th poll. National champions come from the Arizona, Michigan, Duke, Iowa State was number 4, UConn was number 5.
Wow.
Houston meets the criteria. They were number 8, and BYU was still in the top 10. They were number 10.
So it's top 10 teams after the week 6 AP.
I think it was top 10 after the week 6 poll. That's just the one I pulled, but it was around there.
How about that? All right, up tomorrow we're going to have the Big 12 Player of the Year in basketball, Jaden Bradley, joins us on the show. Plus, we're talking Cincinnati spring football, of course. Full reaction to day one, this quadruple header tonight. And, of course, today you can catch the game of the day, Baylor-Arizona State, which gets us started at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central. For Anthony Smith, our producer with Big 12 Studios. For Taman Turner, T-Chains, our tune-in producer. For James Westling, I'm Ari Temkin. We're back tomorrow for a What's New Wackadoo Wednesday. But for now, we're out. Peace.